Hey Buffy fans, bored now, back with Rachel McDonald. On this video we return to the Buffyverse and we will be talking about Buffy Season 3. So this is our overview and discussion of the season, final season in high school. It ends fittingly with the graduation and the dramatic events of that. And yeah, the end of an era for the show, definitely, before it moves on to another chapter in season 4. So the season picks up with the aftermath of what happened between Buffy and Angel at the end of season 2. Very dramatic, lots of tears indeed. So Buffy has gone into hiding. She's gone on the run. We pick up with that in the first episode. We also see how the Scoobies are coping without her. And the overriding arc of the season is this new character of the mayor, who's the new big bad this season. He is the local mayor, of course, and it turns out he has some long-running plans for graduation where he plans to become invincible and feed on lots of lovely students. And he's the Faith character who starts off as a new Slayer in town, but develops into something different by the end of the season. So full spoilers, just warning you about that. And she's one similar to Spike in season 2 on a life of her own. Originally was going to be a shorter term character, but definitely became a hit with the fans, and that's why she ended up staying a lot longer, or a recurring appearance from her at various times, not just on Buffy but also on Angel as well. Most consistent seasons, probably episode to episode, like maybe the most consistent season. If you're just judging it in that way, you think of Buffy season 3.
I had a lot of fun rewatching this. So, I mean, as I've talked about before in the show, Buffy is a show that I have seen countless of times. I could not even begin to try and figure out how many times I have rewatched Buffy. However, I haven't watched it full through, like done a proper rewatch in probably over 10 years. So it is actually really interesting to come at this show from an adult perspective, because when I watched Buffy, I was pretty much the same age as the characters. I was a teenager. So watching it as an adult and watching the characters as an adult and watching some of the storylines play out is really interesting. And I find myself kind of unable to really dislike any of the teenage characters because they're all so young and I just mostly feel sorry for them. I think season 3 is a really strong season, but I do think it has a slump in the middle, which I will talk about, because I found myself as I was watching it, there was a point towards the middle of the season where I was starting to feel like, ugh, come on, like I just wanted to get through the episodes. But then towards the end, like I think it's like the final 5 or 6 episodes are just like fantastic. I think that this iteration of the Scooby. So before Cordy and Cordy and Xander break up, when it's Buffy, Willow, Oz, Cordy, Xander, Giles, that is my favorite like combination of the Scoobies.
Sure.
So I really love like the first half of the season where we get to see the Scooby gang in high school and, you know, they're all together and that's a lot of fun. I think the beginning of the season does a really good job at bringing the issues that were left from season 2 into season 3. You know, obviously the return of Angel, Buffy dealing with that fallout, everyone else kind of dealing with what had happened in season 2 and going into season 3. I like that we get to see the beginnings of Willow's magic storyline in season 3. There are quite a few hints that she's already pushing boundaries that she shouldn't. I think Xander gets actually some fun development this season. Oz and Cordy, not as much. And as we get to the later seasons, I've noticed that they actually do start to phase Cordy out a little bit in this season, and I'm guessing it's because they were preparing to move Charisma to Angel, so they were just trying to like phase her out a little bit. So I had a lot of fun watching this season. As we discuss it, some of the episodes, you were right, there are some fantastic episodes in season 3. I mean, some really, really like solid episodes that have great character work, that have great action scenes. The finale of this season is one of my favorite Buffy finales. Like, it's just done so well. And there are so many moments over the season I really like that really tie into this theme of graduation and moving on, and what does it mean to finish high school and what comes after high school. You know, we're adults now, and so it's hard to remember that well, but I do remember a little bit of like being in high school and being that age of like 17, 18, where you are, you know, childhood is finishing and you have to take the next step, and it's scary and you don't know what it's going to be. And I'm guessing for like people in America, this show, you know, watching this, if you're going through your final stage of senior year and you're taking your SATs and everything like that, like I like that they worked all of that in. So we definitely see a bit more of a, you know, I think a real life, like, you know, season 2 was very much about like Angelus and Spike and Drusilla, but I feel like season 3 is a little bit more of a coming of age season, you know, like all of the characters are moving on and learning who they are. And I think they really get that coming of age feel down. As we get into the discussion, I do have a few nitpicks. I do think some of the characterization and some of the relationships maybe could have been handled a little bit better, but I'll go into that as we talk. But overall, I really very much enjoyed watching this season and watching it from an adult perspective. So it was a lot of fun revisiting season 3. How did you go with this rewatch?
That's fair. Like, I'm in pretty much the same place. So I think this is my second favourite season, and I won't reveal what's my first favourite. We're still to get to it. The idea of graduation and the themes, the episode choices, for example, also looks at some of that stuff. Like, that's a big theme in that episode. Does bring that back into focus quite a bit, and I just love how they contrast that. Like, it's one of the best things that this show does really well. Is the whole high school is hell type thing. Growing up is difficult, and they use that as a perfect metaphor with the monster stuff. So it just builds into graduation, and like you said, the sort of the way it ramps up, like the big arc of the season in the run up to the sort of finale, it is really well done. I think pretty much every episode from a certain point onwards hits its mark pretty much spot on. And great characters, great drama, some great, one-shot monsters, a tremendous big bad. I think the mayor is right up there with some of the best big bads.
Absolutely, yes.
The actor is just wonderful.
Harry Gronick is brilliant, isn't he? Yeah.
And I really love that sort of more cerebral, more calm politician type thing where he almost plays it as a politician. It's like he never lets the political facade totally drop. So it's almost like he lives that. Does that, but in short bursts where it'll just come out of nowhere like an explosion. And so for what on the surface seems like such a calm, calculated guy, how he makes certain scenes quite scary with him. I think in the finale also is a good example, in the hospital and scenes like that where, you just wonder where has that come from? But he just plays it so well where it feels natural and unnerving. And another thing to say about him is then we both agree on this, I think, then although they're the villains of the season, I think we both said we do actually find the relationship with Faith very tender, very touching. And that's something which Buffy does well, where you actually do get into the headspace of the villains as well as the good guys. Because we said they did that really in a way with Spike and Drusilla and the villains in season 2, where you actually did follow them and you were kind of with them in those scenes, even though, they are the villains, they are the ones you're supposed to dislike. We've got a lot to talk about with Faith, where she's following a certain path, and then I think it just shows how in life, and this is related to some of the themes of the show, then in life, if you just make one decision differently, like compared to the way it could have gone, then your whole sort of mission, your whole like direction can change. She's definitely a good guy. She has her own ways, and she, a bit like Cordy, adds that sort of alternative like feel to the main characters, which you need in this sort of show. Like, she comes in, shakes things up, and has her own way of doing things. Of Amends, when I watched that originally, I thought, right, that's it. She's a good guy now. She's not really changing anything.
Yeah.
And then that's why I actually really like the way they handle her change. It's a nice little surprise, and I think they handle it really well and in a very like believable type way.
Faith, when I was younger, Faith was my favorite Buffyverse character, like barring none. And a lot of that had to do with when I was younger, I deeply identified with Faith. I really identified with her. Just a lot of the stuff that she did and said, a lot of the hints about her background, she was just a character that was really, really close to my heart. And I absolutely adored her, to the point that I was a little bit blind when it came to her character. And I would, very much like try to excuse her actions and stuff. Obviously, being older now, I don't identify with Faith as much, or really at all anymore, but I can still remember what it was like to connect with that character. Watching Faith now, I mostly just get really sad, because she is such a tragic character. And I do think that the series doesn't always treat her with the sympathy that she deserves. And I did find her turn to darkness this time around not as... I have some issues with the way it starts, with the beginning incident of with the first murder that she commits, which I think we can talk a little bit more as we get into the season. Eliza is fantastic in the role. I think that her relationship with the mayor is one of the most endearing things in season 3. I mean, obviously he's a little sinister, and if she steps out of line, you're like, what would happen? But by the same token, I'm like, okay, so Faith moves to Sunnydale. There's 3 adults in her life, Joyce, Giles, and Wesley, who know where she's living, who know that she's an underage girl living alone in a crap box motel.
Yeah.
No one bothers to offer her anywhere to stay. And yet the minute she goes to work for the mayor, the very first thing he does is give her a better living space. It's like, how do you not love a dynamic or a character who does that? Like, and then when she tries to pull the sugar daddy thing on him, he won't go for that. I just love that. No, Faith, I don't go for that. I'm a family man. And just, and he gives her a PlayStation, and he makes her feel special and wanted. And I think that he does genuinely care about her. I think there are several scenes that show you that he does actually see her as a daughter, and he does care about her, and he does love her. And I just think that that's beautiful, but also really tragic for Faith, that the only person that she could really find to be on her side is an evil guy who wants to become a giant snake demon. Like, that's not ideal. Rougher, she's a little bit more world-wise than the Scoobies are. She's obviously seen more of the world. She's obviously had a much tougher life than any of the Scoobies, who, mind you, don't have the best home situations themselves. Of her connection with Angel, which will then obviously get really built upon.
That becomes a big thing.
That becomes such a big thing later on, and is honestly one of my favorite friendships in the entire Whedonverse.
A bit more into the mythology of things, like just Faith arriving, and the explanation makes sense, because
absolutely,
when Kendra was killed, that activated it, and so it all makes sense. But it just expands and opens up a few more questions about how things work with this, because with Buffy, it actually makes sense because she moves to Sunnydale with her mother, so we know she's already got a home. But with Faith, like, you might say it should be the Watchers Council who should find her a place to put her.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It just makes me wonder how this stuff works, because like, there's definitely arguments that Buffy and co could have made more of an effort, but I think it probably is on the Watchers Council
It's
in a way.
definitely on the Watchers Council, 100%. Yes.
And the other thing, another question I have, because when Faith shows up, she just starts like she's a student at the school. Now, is that something that the Watchers Council set up, or is it?
Okay. No, she's hanging around at the school with Buffy, but she
not a
doesn't
student.
actually attend. No, she's not a student.
Okay. I just got the impression she might have been. Like, maybe that was part of her cover.
No, she definitely, you only ever really see her in the library, training with Buffy, but no, she doesn't actually attend the school.
And his reintroduction into the show. Now, it's one of the unfortunate things. Then back then they had to have him on the credits, and it's just one of those things because he's on the main cast list. And nowadays they could actually work around that, and it wouldn't be such a thing. But it obviously kills a bit of drama because he's gonna be back. And I can imagine watching at the time, you were probably like, well, I think Angel might legitimately be gone and we might not see him again after the way season 2 ended. And you at least would want that drama of not knowing if he's going to come back. I think they bring him back too soon. I think it would have been better to have bring him back a bit later, a bit more of a drama. And because I think once he comes back, you naturally start getting like the tension with him and Buffy, and is there gonna be a thing with them again this season? And it probably, although there's good stuff with Angel this season, Amends being a particular standout, I think it's one of my little nitpicks about the season. Then it just feels like their relationship has been a bit overplayed, and in some ways I would prefer if they just decided to be friends, or if they just had him involved here and there, and it didn't become a whole drama again. I think it drags it down a little bit. It's the reason they gave him his own show. But yeah, I just think in a way I'm here more for the Scoobies than I am. Like, it might just be me and like, because a lot of the relationships in this show, particularly when it comes to Buffy, like, I like them up to a point, some of them, but I'm also kind of, I'm over this now. I'm not really here for this. Their whole thing during the prom, which is legitimate drama, and you can understand why Buffy gets upset and things like that. And we can definitely circle back round to that stuff. But I kind of hate that she's still moody with him in the next episode, where they've already like made up and decided it's for the best we go our own ways after this. I mean, that's one nitpick I have about the finale, and it's only for like a minute anyway, but it just feels like a bit, you already kissed and made up. Why are you still being arsey with each other? Sort of thing.
No, I hear you. Yeah, it's a little bit like, but that's kind of, I feel like that's in character for Buffy. She doesn't, especially when it comes to Angel, she doesn't always deal with her emotions well. And one of her defense mechanisms is just to start yelling at him. She does it in season 2 as well. I agree with you on a certain level. Oh, yeah. Look, the bottom line is, like, Angel was supposed to die at the end of season 2. The only reason he came back is because they wanted to give David the show. So they had to bring Angel back to spin him off onto, Angel, which, okay, fair enough. I don't mind that he came back at the end of like season 3 or episode 3 or whatever. I don't mind that he came back that early. I don't even mind that. I think the whole him and Buffy trying to figure out, like, I like the fact that he comes back quite rabid. I like the fact that, she has to kind of, look after him for a certain time because, and they kind of gloss over this in both Buffy and Angel, but he literally spent like 100 years in hell. Like, that never really comes up again. I mean, it's not a small thing, but so I like that kind of initial integration of like, Angel's back, what do I do? The conflict with the Scoobies when they find out. They've got to stop ganging up on her like this, but they definitely have a point. Like, I completely think that they are fair to say, you should not have hidden this from us. You absolutely cannot be out there making out with him, because we all know what happened the last time you guys got physical. And I really love Giles's moment with her, where he basically says to her, what you haven't remembered is that Angel tortured me for hours for pleasure. And I think, Giles absolutely has grounds and can hate Angel for the rest of his days. I mean, I really think that after Buffy, maybe even more than Buffy, Giles really, and jealous what he did to Giles with Jenny, with the torture. I've seen fans get mad at Giles for greeting Angel with a crossbow and amends, but I'm like, no, dude, I would be doing the exact same thing.
That's such a great scene. Yeah.
It's a fantastic
you can't blame him. No.
You absolutely cannot blame him, not one bit. And so I think that all of that is really good. My issue is, so season 2 gave us a great reason for why Buffy and Angel can't be together. Because if he gets too close and they accidentally slip, he loses his soul, and then he turns into stalker, creepy boyfriend, psycho Edward Cullen, And it's like, that's bad, all right? And for the first half of season 3, that is the reason that, everyone's saying you can't be together, because he's going to go evil and kill everyone. And it's like, yeah, this is a really good, legitimate reason for you not to be together. And that all kind of culminates in amends, when they have the big confrontation up on the hill, and Buffy's all like, I know everything that you did because you did it to me. And my thought is that right there should have been the end of the Angel relationship, because they've gotten to the point where, because they've acknowledged that they can't be together, because they cannot be close to each other, because that risk is always there. And it's not even just about the sex. Jenny is sent to Sunnydale because Angel's already getting too happy. He just being around Buffy in and of itself is a danger. So that would have been it. So what I think should have happened is, I think after amends, Buffy and Willow could have had a conversation where Willow's like, oh, so what's going on now? And Buffy could have been like, well, Angel's decided to go do some soul searching or something like that. I think he should have left after amends. And then what they could have done is brought him back for a few episodes, bring him back when they need someone to talk to Faith. Maybe he could have popped up at the prom, and then that would have been that much sweeter for him to turn up at the prom for her. And then maybe he comes for the final battle and graduation day, and then he leaves for good. Because what I don't agree with is this whole stupid, you can't be with Buffy because she has to go on and have a normal life, and what if she wants to go to college, and what if she wants to have kids, and what are you going to do if she gets to... It's like, she's a slayer, people. Chances are she's not going to live much longer than into her 20s, so shouldn't she have happiness while she can?
I much agree with the mayor. I'm with him on that side of things.
But to me, if Buffy was a normal girl, yeah, you could make that argument. But she's the slayer. The way they're all like, oh, she doesn't belong in the dark with Angel. It's like, but that is literally her world. She's already in that world.
But isn't that part of the point of this season, though? Then it's saying it doesn't necessarily have to be her world. There are choices, there are options, and she starts considering those options.
Oh, and I definitely get that, but I don't... It's like they turn it from, your boyfriend could go psycho and kill us all, which is a good, solid reason to not to be together, to... you shouldn't be dating an older guy because he's going to hold you back. And that angle, for me, doesn't work, because it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, she's going to college in Sunnydale. It's not like she's going to college elsewhere. And I know that everyone wants to kind of pull the wool over their own eyes and pretend that Buffy can go on and have a nice, long, normal life, but she can't. We all know this. And so I don't buy that argument of, oh, what happens if you want to go off and have kids, and I'm holding you back and I can't take you into the light. No, that's bullshit, because the girl is already, she's a slayer. Her world is darkness and demons. And if Angel can be one bright spot in that, then I don't see why he shouldn't be, except for the whole pesky curse thing. So I just think that they had this fantastic reason to keep Buffy and Angel apart that really organically worked, and then they changed it for this other stupid reason that doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, yeah, I can see what he's saying. I don't really agree. Very different than saying how an FBI agent who's constantly in the thick of things and lives that sort of life how they come home to their family at night and still, you can. I'm not saying it's easy, but you can still get a balance there, like Buffy could. And this is something they explore in season 4, but she can attempt to have a regular relationship. Because there's other stuff to the stuff with Angel than just his curse. I mean, there's the fact that you constantly have to watch out for each other, like arguably being around each other brings, if there's enemies of Angel, Buffy could get caught in the crossfires. If there's enemies
I'm okay with.
But
Buffy, but I mean, yeah, that's fine. My big thing is this whole, you can't be with her because she needs to have a normal life, because she's never going to have a normal life, ever. So that argument doesn't work for me. That whole,
but she could, up to a point, have a normal life, and this season does explore options. And obviously, I know Joyce is being a bit naive and doesn't understand, but she obviously mentions how having Faith around while she's still on the good team is sort of handy. You can share things out, and so that there are options. I think
and at that point, I definitely agree with it.
To having that sort of a life as Angel is.
And I definitely get that. But like, by the time he breaks up with her, she's decided to stay in Sunnydale. She's accepted her position at Sunnydale University, which can I just one slight little off topic thing. Don't you love how Sunnydale has gone from, in season 1, being a town so small that the bad part of town is half a block from the good part of town, to suddenly in season 3, it's big enough to have its own university? I just found that very amusing. That his curse is reason enough, and that his curse should have been the reason that they couldn't be together. And I don't think that Angel takes up as much space in season 3 as I remember him taking up. Like, he's actually even missing for several episodes, and at least in the beginning, you only, really see him like a few times. But I do think that his and Buffy's relationship does get dragged on too long, and I do think that their eventual breakup is, for me, it doesn't quite work. But they do still have several moments over the season that I still love.
I feel a similar thing, that maybe they could have just used him a bit better, like they could have used him in here and there, and you're just talking maybe a little bit of a rewrite. And because I actually do like the idea of Amends being his last proper episode, and maybe bringing back for the finale, like you said.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And it could have been a cool reveal, when they're like, oh, who can we get to talk to Faith? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, look, Angel's back, to come in and talk to her.
Yeah, they then sets up so much of what his own show's going to be.
Absolutely.
I think just realistically, it's just one of these awkward things. Once they decided to have him back, he's obviously under contract. They're paying him a decent amount, so that they're probably going to want to have him stick around and be in like most episodes. So it's just one of those things that maybe the writers are sort of saddled with a little bit. But Scooby's, like in that episode, Revelations, isn't it? Where they find out. And
yes, I agree.
Now, Xander definitely goes a bit far with his comment, but do you think there's some truth to what he said? Do you think Buffy is like, I mean, obviously she's got a bias because of who it is, but do you think he's got a point in saying that, even though he says it in a totally...
Yeah, see, this is the issue with Xander, and I've noticed this a few times in this season. He actually makes really good points, but he makes them in a way that is so douchebag, like in such a douchebaggery way that it's like, okay, well, I can't listen to you because you're being a dick. But no, I absolutely think they all have a point in that. I think Xander has a point. When he talks about how Buffy's being dangerous, I think Willow has a point when she says you don't see straight when it comes to Angel. Like, definitely. I think Cordy has a point when she says what gives you the right to suck face with your demon lover again. I also think she really has a point when she's all like, I'm afraid, for me, the last time Angel went mad, he barely touched Buffy. He was too busy going after all her friends. And I was like, So
that's really funny how she keeps going on about, can I come in your car or something? He's been in my car or something, wasn't it?
Cordy's just brilliant.
Really
Cordy this season, like I love Cordy. She's It's so good. But yeah, no, I think everyone has a point in that scene. But Xander confronting someone, it's not just Buffy. He always does it in like a really angry way. And it's like, no, dude, you need to calm down. Because, like I said, you're making really good points, but the way you're making them is so stupid that no one wants to listen to you. So, yeah, I think Xander in particular just needs to, like, cool it a little bit. But he does have good points. I am actually really on the Scooby side in Revelations. I think Buffy definitely messed up in not telling them Angel was back. Especially when you think of what they went through in season 2, when Angel was bad, they definitely have a right to know that he's back and that they may be possibly in danger again.
Queasy about Xander bringing up Jenny in the first place.
Yeah.
But I think initially he makes a good point, but then he just takes it too far.
Because that's
where
what
he tries to equate it with, okay, because it's not Jenny, because it's Angel, he just takes it a little bit too far. The standard of the episodes is so high, it's actually hard to pick out actual bad episodes or weaker ones. I think the standard is so high, then the weakest episode, I would say, is still about a 6 out of 10. 6, maybe a 5.5, something like that. So I think that says something. Then there's no actual outright stinkers.
I think that Anne is a underrated season opener.
Yeah.
And rewatching season 3 this time around, I would actually have to agree with you. Like, I never really I never really liked Anne that much, but no, watching it this time, I actually think it does a very good job of showing where Buffy is emotionally and mentally, of seeing the Scooby struggle without her, of seeing just the aftermath of season 2. And I also think Anne and Amends, if you put those 2 episodes together, those 2 are almost like a backdoor pilot for Angel, because a lot of what we see in Anne of Buffy in LA, obviously re-meeting Lily / Chanterelle / Anne, who is honestly one of the best characters ever, who only appears in like 5 episodes and it's still so fantastic. I think that's a lot of a precursor for the feel of Angel and what Angel will end up doing, and the whole we help the helpless kind of shtick. But I actually really enjoyed Anne this time around and really enjoyed watching the episode, and I found it like it really shows you how far gone Buffy is. There's this one moment in Medina that I found so hard to watch, but that I still think just really showed her state of mind, where some guy grabs her ass and she doesn't do anything. And it's like, it's so hard to watch Buffy Summers like not turn around and just pummel this guy. And I think that's such a greatest like character moment to show that like she is still dealing so much with like her grief and her PTSD. And also Ken is just like the creepiest dude ever. I swear that actor could play a pedophile. It's just so creepy.
He's fantastic. He of course is the one who's appeared in at least 3 Whedon shows.
Yes.
He's in Angel and he's also in Firefly. So he's been a bit of a regular, but I really like that actor. But I agree with you. It sort of bridges the gap between season 2, the finale, and the start of the season, and just gets in Buffy's headspace. And there's a lot of great direction. There's a lot of very understated sort of moments with her, and the first day back at Sunnydale High, and all this energy, people milling about, everything, and then the more, the calmness, but the more very
just cuts to the stillness of Buffy, just alone,
Buffy back in the apartment, and this stuff, and just having to be a bit more restrained because she is basically on the run, undercover, and this is almost a moment where she could decide to disappear into a new life and maybe not bother coming back at all. So she's definitely considering that. And I think it's a very strong episode. I really like the Monster of the Week gimmick in Temple of Doom feel, like the Indiana Jones film. Maybe took some influence, but it's a good little like story just to give Buffy her spark back again, where sort of doing this thing and actually standing up to like the maggot face style monster is a good turning point, because she actually helps out these less fortunate like kids, slaves around her, and I think that is a light bulb moment where she decides, okay, I've still got a destiny back in Sunnydale.
Oh yeah, nature that like when Lily comes to her for help, and because Ricky's gone missing, and like then she ends up getting angry at Buffy, and Buffy's like, okay, look, I didn't ask for this, just leave me alone. But like even though she has no obligation to, she still goes to the place to check it out. It just shows that it's in her nature to go and help people. Like even though she's got no obligation to go and help Lily, she's got no obligation to find out what's going on. She can't not go there because that is just part of her, who she is. And I think that thing carries into the season of like, yes, she's the chosen one, but she also is a very compassionate and altruistic person. And so I also love when the woman comes in and is like, what are you doing? She's like, going through your files. And she's like, I'll call the police. And she just reaches out and just rips the phone out of the wall. It's just like, nope. I mean, I love that moment down in the things where the guy's like, who are you? And they say no one. And then when he hits the kid, you can see Buffy's face. She's just like, oh no, this isn't going to happen. And then of course that awesome moment with I'm Buffy, the vampire slayer, and you are. And I also love how you see her give Anne the confidence, because Anne pushes Ken off the bridge later on. And I really wish that there had been some way for Buffy to see Anne and who she became, because Buffy really was the person who gave her start. So I love that bit at the end where she gives her the uniform, and Lily's all like, can I be Anne? And obviously we do see Anne again later on in Angel, and she's become such a fantastic character. So it would have been really nice if Buffy could have seen her again.
A spin-off show, because you can constantly open up the universe of this world and have characters who started off with, and obviously she only has a big part role in Angel, but you do see what a different character she is.
Oh yeah.
And it's actually really nice, and you can draw a line from her first appearance in Buffy, and you can see how she's a little bit different where she shows back up in Anne, and then how she's much different when she appears in Angel. They do with Faith by the time she reappears in Buffy in season 7. It's like she's had a full arc, but she's sort of had it over the course of both shows.
Yeah, so absolutely.
That's one of the advantages of having a shared sort of universe.
Yeah.
Everybody go! Go on!
Back? Humans don't fight back! All die! That was not permitted.
Yeah, but it was fun.
You've got guts. I think I'd like to slice you open and play with them. Of rebellion!
Talk a bit about episode 2, because this is one which some people see as the lesser episode, which I probably agree with, Dead Man's Party, but it's one of those episodes that's grown on me a little bit over time. Like, I actually don't think it's as bad as I used to.
I actually don't mind Dead Man's Party. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for it. Because I think it does a good job of following on from the issues. Like, I like that Buffy comes back, but she's not instantly accepted back into the Scoobies. They've got issues with her, which, you know what? Again, this is one of those things where I understand everyone's point of view,
Yeah.
The problem is the Scoobies don't have all the information. They don't know that Angel got his soul back and that Buffy had to kill him to save the world, They don't know that. Buffy was obviously suffering from severe PTSD. Joyce did technically tell her to get out of the house. I still think it was a bluff, and that Buffy just called her bluff and Joyce didn't intend to follow through. But, you've got all that. So I understand that Buffy needed to get away. I understand that she wasn't dealing well. But by the same token, she's been gone for 3 months. They don't know where she is. They don't even know if she's alive. She just left. Like, would it have killed her to just send a postcard saying, hey, I'm still alive, just not coming home yet? And so I think a lot of the issues that are aired in Dead Man's Party, they do it in completely the wrong way. Like, let's invite half the school to Buffy's house when she invited us over for an intimate dinner party. If I was Buffy, I would kill them. But what they were saying was not wrong. And so I like that Dead Man's Party shows that Buffy, that it's not going to be an easy transition back into the Scoobies. It's not going to be an easy transition back into her life, because that would have been too neat, you know, if she just returned and everyone was like, yay, Buffy's back. Let's just go back to being friends. So I like that they've got that. Plus, Dead Man's Party's got some fun lines. Like good old Giles just driving through town. Do you like my mask? Isn't it pretty? It raises the dead. Really Americans. Just so good. So yeah, I've always liked Dead Man's Party, but you said you enjoyed it more this time around?
It definitely grows on me the more I see it, and over time, because when I first saw it, I was definitely more on Buffy's side. I thought they were being real douchebags. But yeah, as time has gone on, I can see all points of view. Spend time with Buffy, you know, and it seems a little bit forced, but like I can understand it as well. I think it is just, in a way, it's an awkward sort of situation. Behaviour seemed a bit extreme to me, and it seemed a bit forced, but over time I can actually see a little bit why they would behave like that, and it's obviously a good point you made that they don't actually know what went down.
Needed to have that all out, just not at a party where they've invited half the school to her house without her permission. Like, that was just, I would kill them if someone did that to me. I would be so pissed. It's like, oh yeah, come have a dinner party at my house. Oh, don't worry, we'll just bring half the school that you don't know into your house. It's just, that was a crap move on the Scooby's part. I think that was not good. But like I said, I think the confrontation needed to happen. All of it needed to come out. And even as the season goes on, we still get more of like Buffy revealing what actually happened at the end of season 2. I mean, so much went down in season 2, you know. So I like that season 3 doesn't just jump straight back into business as normal, you know. We have to deal with that. We have to deal with the fallout of season 2. The weak stuff with the mask and the zombies,
it's not
maybe
the best,
not.
but
it's not the best.
It's fine. It's meant to be secondary. You know, the stuff with the cat. Welcome to the Sunnydale petting zoo and lines like that. That's pretty, and it's naturally freaky. Anytime you see like reanimation with like animals like that, it's really freaky because it's just so unnatural.
But I love Courtney's comment later on. Someone says, I hate Brie. I know. It smells like Giles's cat. For the last time, it is not my cat.
And I'll just say as well, I think is it Pam the name of Joyce's? Oh,
yeah, Pam.
What a bitch.
I know,
I think she might be the worst villain ever on the show. I was so cheering when she got killed, basically.
I know, right?
She definitely deserved it.
She was the worst, man. Oh, such a passive-aggressive, nosy bitch. Just like, come on, woman, pull it together. One of the weaker episodes of season 3, but I don't think it's that bad. And I said, it's got some fun stuff.
Standard. Like, if that's one of the weaker episodes, I think, you know, you're on to a good season.
Yeah.
And I agree that the drama works really well. Faith's debut, which I think is very entertaining, very well done. I also enjoy Mr. Trick's debut.
Yes. I've been wanting to, when I started this season, I said to Stephen, and here's some information for you guys. I said to him, like, I wonder how Keith is going to go, and Stephen's like, oh, right, isn't his username Mr. Trick? I was like, yes! So I can talk to him about this, because we all know how much you love Mr. Trick.
Yeah, like, he's definitely another example of them, like, spicing things up and making the vampires more diverse. Like the scenes with him and the mayor, I think they have a good chemistry. I quite like him as the mayor's number 2 for a while.
Yeah, me too.
And he's just one of those where he brings a bit more charisma. He has some choice lines, and the actor I really like, and he definitely stands out as one of the more interesting vampires, and as sort of like a sidekick or like a sort of a B villain, if you like. I think he's very effective.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I absolutely love his first scene there, you know, at the drive-in. That is such that might be one of my favorite sort of openings to an episode.
It's a great scene.
Like just
really
pre-credit sort of scenes.
Yeah.
Because you've got the other one, and you just see the
Kissing
contrast.
Toast?
Yeah, kissing toast, of course. You just see the contrast between the two vampires, where kissing toast, as we must call him always now, is just getting really uptight and frustrated, and Trick is just so laid back and cool.
Just chill.
And he's like, oh, now I'm hungry, and casually grabs the guy. And I just love that, the limousine driving off and him eating the guy inside.
Eating the guy,
And I just love casual stuff like that, like him saying dinner's here, and it's like the pizza guy, but the pizza guy's the dinner, not the pizza. Just drags him in. It's really great stuff. And yeah, he has some great dialogue. He has some great delivery of lines. He's got a real presence to him. And I just like him as the mayor's number 2 for a while. It's fun.
They work really well.
They do. So I think, Mr. Trick is a more underrated character. Definitely. I also like in that episode, I like the subversion of how they think they're there to get Buffy, because
because they're all like, they're just talking about the Slayer. We need to get the Slayer, and you're like, oh, what did Buffy do to this guy? And then you're like, oh, different Slayer.
Yeah, because that's obviously before they've introduced Faith. So that's another clever subversion. Really strong parts. We've got the Faith part, we've got the Trick part, and then we get the weaker part, which is the really bland Scott Hope.
I'm watching the season 3 this time around, right? And I'm like, what is the point of Scott Hope? Like, what is the point? You could take him out of these episodes and they would be fine. They would play out almost exactly the same way. He is so blah. And who buys someone they're not even dating a cluttering? Like, come on, boy. Let's just slow down a bit, okay?
Yeah, he's terrible, and it continues like the run of whenever they try and ship Buffy with a regular guy, it never really works. They always come off very boring and quite annoying, and it turns out he's a bit of a douche, having made us believe that maybe he's a decent guy. But I definitely agree, it's really extreme. Like, they're not even dating properly yet, and he buys the sort of, like, it's the sort of gift you wait at least 6 months, when you've been dating.
Given that Angel gave it to her on her 17th birthday after they'd been I mean, for God's sake, they use them as wedding bands in Ireland. Like, this is not a small, insignificant gift. And I know they wanted to have the whole callback to Angel, but it just seemed really flimsy. Like, oh, I'm not even dating this girl, but I'm going to buy her a ring? Like, come on.
Yeah, and I've got a pet peeve with these sorts of characters, and it's sort of they try too hard to make them seem interesting or like quirky. Yeah. It's like the whole Buster Keaton film.
Yeah. I know, right?
Like a 17 or 18-year-old would be like into Buster Keaton. Just like, oh, let's go on our first date to her. And he's got that really crappy line, Keaton is key.
He's key. I know. He says that. I just wanted to punch him in his stupid face.
It annoys me a bit more than... Oh, what was the season 1 guy in...
Owen?
Yeah, because he was rubbish, but at least it was only 1 episode.
Exactly. Yeah.
The other stuff in the episode was quite enjoyable, but because we actually get a few episodes of Hope. Well, not Hope really, because who we got, but no, he was rubbish, and he turned out to be a right douche, because the reason he gave for dumping her was just like
terrible,
such horseshit.
Absolutely terrible. Oh, yeah, when he's all like, oh, before you were so full of life, and now you just seem distracted. It's like, what bullshit reason is that? You just wanted to get in someone else's mouth. That being said, Faith's little revenge on him at the homecoming, that is brilliant. Yeah. Oh, So good. Faith's a good friend, at least in the beginning. I just thought that was really
I mean, that's definitely one of those where Faith's direct approach and that definitely pays off and definitely works for good because he really had that coming, that
he
douchebag.
did.
Question about Mr. Trick. Watching it the first time, I kind of expected him to be in the whole season, and we obviously take a different direction because Faith replaces him basically once he gets dusted. Now, did you think that was going to happen first time? Like, did you think Trick would be in the whole season, or did you think this is a short-term character? I mean, I guess it's one of those things you can't really have both. It would feel too sort of... And I definitely like what they do with Faith.
Really remember my impressions and everything back then. I think I remember hearing a rumor recently. Now, I don't know if this is true because whoever posted this, I don't know if they had something to back them up. But I remember hearing that Faith was actually, and when we get to the episode, I'll talk more about it. But I remember hearing that Faith maybe was supposed to die halfway through the season, and so maybe Mr. Trick was supposed to be around for the whole season. But then when they decided to keep Faith, they then decided to kill off Trick and put Faith in as the mayor's assistant instead. Again, it's something I'd have to confirm, but I kind of get what you're saying because Trick does feel like he's going to be there for the full season, especially once he becomes ingratiated with the mayor and he becomes the mayor's like right-hand man, so to speak. So it probably was a bit of a surprise when I first saw the series that he died, but I honestly can't remember because it's just been so long since my first watch and I have watched the series so many times. But if that was the plan, if Faith was supposed to die, then I can see that Mr. Trick maybe was supposed to go all the way through to the end.
What point was she supposed to die?
Okay, we'll go into a little bit of spoilers here. Apparently, at the end of Bad Girls, allegedly there was a script where Buffy comes to Faith's apartment to find that Faith has actually hanged herself out of guilt. Again, I don't know if this is actual, based in reality, or if this is just one of those rumors. You know how sometimes you get stuff that's like, is this actually real, or did someone just put this on IMDb and all of a sudden it became fact? But I remember hearing that, yes, apparently Bad Girls was supposed to end with Faith killing herself. So if the change was made, then that makes sense because Bad Girls is where Mr. Trick dies. So if they did make that change, then it does make sense that it would have happened there. Quite frankly, I'm very glad they did not go down that route if that was an actual option, because I actually think that may have been a little too dark for this series, maybe a little too intense. For that to actually have happened.
It worked out for the best because I think it's having her and the mayor together and the whole direction because I personally don't think her just becoming a part of the Scoobies would have been half as interesting. I think it's much more interesting her taking a dark turn, especially since with her and Buffy you've got the whole almost mirror image type thing where Faith is the slightly darker version of Buffy, or she's the more out there bad girl version. And an episode like Bad Girls shows that quite well. It does show then although Faith is misguided in many ways and different things, then introducing a little bit of that to Buffy's life, and Buffy just letting her hair down sometimes, I think is a good thing. And I absolutely love the dynamic between Buffy and Faith and the way they work together, the way they have tension, but they also have certain connections to each other. Because that's something they use all the way through, even to the end, even when they're like bitter rivals. And the fact that they're appearing in each other's dreams and stuff like that, I think it's... Because like that dream sequence, like in the finale,
that's one of my favorite dream sequences in the show. Yeah,
see those little moments where you can tell that Faith at times regrets her decision a little bit. Like you can see it in Choices, for example, where she takes a little moment and the mayor's like, Faith, come along. Faith sort of dancing between the two for a while is really interesting to watch. Bittersweet, like feeling. It's not a critique so much than I was just enjoying Trick so much, and
Yeah.
I probably would have hoped that he'd maybe been around long term, at least till the end of the season.
I get
but
that.
I can
Yeah.
also see why that didn't happen.
Your opinion on the whole Willow Xander cheating storyline? Where do you stand on that storyline? Because that is a very polarizing storyline in the fandom.
Yeah. Mind it too much. I think it's quite good drama.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a logic to it where they've obviously had these feelings bubbling for a long time. In life, these things do like come out when you least expect them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's maybe part of what this season is showing, that sometimes when you are settled in a couple like Cordy and Xander, Willow and Oz, then sometimes these things you don't expect to happen, and they just sort of happen. And yeah, it's just bubbling feelings that have been there for a while, definitely on both sides, even though for a long time we got the impression that maybe it was more from Willow than Xander to watch, because you really feel for Cordy and you feel for Oz as well. And yeah, Cordy really, in that episode, Lover's Walk, it's just, she's really sort of punched in the gut, emotionally, and then almost
literally
dying. Yeah, nearly dying as well. So yeah,
that cut, man, that cut at the end of that episode where she passes out, and then it cuts to the funeral scene, and you're just like, oh my god, and then you see Buffy and Willow walking in front of her. A brilliant cut.
Brilliant cut, yeah.
Oh, okay. No, that's cool, because that means that we're actually kind of on the same page when it comes to Xander and Willow, because I am one of the few fans that actually likes that storyline. I think it is an incredibly realistic storyline. As you said, Willow and Xander have always had this kind of underlying attraction to each other. It's always been there. We've seen it before, even on Xander's end. I mean, the whole ice cream cone moment at the beginning of season 2. I particularly like the setting of their first kiss, because I think it really works, again, for the theme of like growing up and moving on. I like that it happens while they're trying on their formal clothes and talking about the future. They're talking about moving on and being adults, and then they see each other in these different clothes, because I mean, clothes can have a huge effect on how you see a person and everything. And I just love that moment when Willow walks out in the dress, and you can kind of just see that like a little shift has happened, and it can be scary talking about moving on and growing up. So sometimes you turn to what's familiar, and what's more familiar to Willow and Xander than each other. So, and I also think it's an incredibly realistic storyline for a teenage couple to have, because when you're a teenager, you are so full of hormones, and you do usually end up having a crush on like 3 different people at the same time. And while cheating is obviously always bad, I do tend to think it's less bad when you're a teenager, because at that age you don't quite grasp commitment and long-term relationships. So I think at that point it's a little bit less severe. It's not the same as an adult cheating in a marriage. You're kids, you don't quite know how to handle adult relationships, you don't quite know how to navigate your own hormones. And I think the way that that it plays out, and the way that it comes to a head in that episode with poor Cordy, that's based on an actual injury that Charisma got, like in a very similar way.
I didn't know that, no.
Yeah, she actually does have a scar exactly where they put the rebar, because when she was a kid, she fell into a pool and got skewered with a
okay.
Yeah, so they put that in there. And Xander are a bit awkward around each other and a bit awkward around Oz. Like, there's this really cute scene where Xander and Oz are at the cafeteria, and Xander's trying to make like small talk with Oz, and he's just like, so, a burrito. And Oz is like, that is a burrito. Yeah. And it's just so awkward, because they don't quite know, how to
gauge it.
And then I think it's really nice that you just see over the season that, Xander and Oz just become more comfortable around each other. And I really, really love Xander and Cordy's little bit of closure at the prom. When he buys her dress. Like, that is just, because it lets them end on a slightly happier note, They get to have a little bit of closure and not end on like just badness. So while I understand why fans don't like this storyline, I've always liked the storyline. Not because I ship Willow and Xander or want them to be together, but because I think it just plays out in a very organic manner, and I think it's done really well. So that's cool. We seem to be very much on the same page when it comes to season 3. We have I guess because it is such a strong season and it does things so well.
Again, it's probably another example maybe of a storyline I used to not like so much, but has grown on me on further rewatches. How mature Oz is about the whole thing.
Oz!
Like, he just has a way
Oz.
of putting things in perspective so well, and actually just being like honest, but not honest in a douchey sort of way. Like the way he deals with Willow and calls her out a bit on what she's doing. Like, you just want to make yourself feel better.
And that's not my problem.
Yeah,
I really like that. And then I really like. Yeah, sorry, you go.
Well, just when he approaches her again in amends, because
that's what I was going to talk about.
That's what it boils down to. I miss you.
Yeah, and I also like that he acknowledges that she and Xander have a connection that maybe he can't really, get between. And he's like, when she's all like, oh, it's a connection between the past. And he's like, well, I'm not sure it ever will be, but that's okay. It's like he's accepted that like Willow and Xander have a bond that maybe he can't touch, but he loves Willow. And like he said, he misses her and it works out really well.
It's a very mature way he deals with it, which like a lot of people maybe twice his age may not deal with it that maturely. So it is impressive slowly coming back together. And it's another example what Xander does for Cordy. It shows he does have a conscience and he still cares about her, and it is such a stand-up move because he doesn't take credit for it like in the scene, but he did that for her, and that's such a great thing to do. And I also actually like then in the finale they decide to skip class together. Like they just decide,
cute, isn't it?
Well, the world might end soon, so we might as well just skip our last class. We're graduating anyway, and so it shows them they are comfortable hanging out with each other and are still like friends. And so just a question on that, since we're at that point anyway, like did you think when you first watched this, did you expect Cordy to be in season 4? Because I remember thinking it was a bit odd that she didn't, because apart from the fact that she obviously doesn't get into uni because of circumstances, outside of that, it just felt like she should probably be in season 4. There didn't seem like a particular reason
that she left.
And I think we now know maybe it was behind the scenes stuff, possibly. But because I watched Buffy and Angel kind of all out of order, it was really weird the way I watched these series because of the way they aired here and the way the DVDs came out. So I knew that Cordy would not be in season 4 when I watched season 4 of Buffy. So it wasn't as big a change for me. When I first watched it, I think I'm trying to remember if I watched season 4. Because I definitely remember that I saw season 5 of Angel before I saw season 3 of Buffy in its entirety. So I knew that Cordy had left, so it wasn't really a surprise.
So it wasn't a big surprise. But I do remember like yesterday when I just finished the series, I was sitting there and I turned to Stephen and I was like, look, I love Cordy on Angel. I love what they do with her on Angel, but part of me would have really liked to see Cordy go to college with the gang. I think that could have been really fun. And it would have been really interesting if she had to see what they would have done with her on Buffy, because I do know that when they moved her to Angel, she was very, very nervous about going to Angel because it wasn't an established show and she had a steady paycheck on Buffy. And apparently Joss, who knows if this is real, but apparently he did tell her that if Angel folded, that he would put her back on Buffy. So she always had apparently that option to go back. So that's interesting, an interesting thought, that like if Angel had folded, like how would they have brought her back? But I think it could have been very cool to see her go on to college with the gang, because when you watch Angel as much as I do, it's easy to forget how integral Cordy actually is to the Scoobies, like how much she actually is a part of the Scooby gang. And, you know, she does have connections within the gang. Like, her and Willow have a very underrated friendship, I think. Like, yeah, they have some really cute moments. And even her and Buffy get a little bit closer in season 3, you know, and I really love Cordy. You know, she's one of my favorite characters. So I think it would have been interesting. When you watched the series, did you know that she was leaving, or was it jarring for you?
I didn't.
Oh, okay. So how did you go in season 4?
Was it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was just that feeling, and obviously Anna picks up the slack in many ways, and I think is crucially a different sort of character to Cordelia. All different enough, I would say, although she has some of the same character traits. I think, particularly because of her unique situation as an ex-Vengeance Steve, like she is different enough, and I think at least early on becomes a good partner for Xander, and we'll talk more about that in the future. But yeah, it was a little bit of a disappointment. Then we didn't get a little bit more of Cordy in Buffy, and also a disappointment then they didn't at least have a crossover where Cordy came back to Sunnydale.
Yes,
like
that
a scene with
really
her
cool.
and Xander, I think again could have been really good. Rated episodes, and I'm gonna suggest that they are Revelations and Gingerbread. I think those are 2 episodes that deserve a bit more love.
I love Gingerbread. Gingerbread has been one of my unpopular favorites of season 3 for like years and years and years. Revelations, I also think, is a really good episode, and obviously a really great episode and a turning point for, well, everyone, really. It really changes up the status quo, because obviously you have the revelation that Angel's back. Gwendolyn Post is...
She's entertaining, isn't she?
But we really need to talk more about the Watchers Council, because they're really not on the ball, man. At all. Like, how did this even happen? Ugh, whatever. And what I really like about the title is it is almost like a double meaning, because it's revelations as in like everything's kind of being revealed, but it's also revelations like the Book of Revelation. So if you look at the episode Revelations, there's actually a lot of foreshadowing to what's going to happen in the finale, which is really cool. So yeah, Revelations is definitely a great episode. And poor Giles gets knocked unconscious again.
So yeah, I think that's right. I think again it's a good example how to do a Monster of the Week plot where it gets the balance, because I think it is an entertaining Monster of the Week that works on its own, but it also has some really meaty character stuff that moves the plot forward, and yeah, definitely has good character. I mean, that scene in the library we've already talked about. That's such a good scene, but yeah, as a one-shot sort of villain, Gwendolyn Post is entertaining. I love some of her one-liners. I sort of like, you know, jolly good show indeed, where she's like whacking him. And I kind of like Faith, word of advice, you're an idiot. That's really fun.
Faith.
Yeah,
oh, God, yeah.
And yeah, just the whole drama. And that's obviously something where Faith could potentially have turned to the dark side then. But I also have a soft spot for that sort of B-movie style plot, you know, with the whole glove. It's like very sort of Indiana Jones.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
I just love her like activating it, and she's like Capreme or whatever.
Yeah.
She just goes crazy. She's shooting everything.
Yeah.
But
no, it is a great episode. And I think in particular, if you look at Faith in that episode, because, you know, it's the first kind of crack in her facade, the first time that she really feels on the outs, because obviously Faith has come to Sunnydale wanting to belong and wanting to be part of the Scooby Gang, and you know, and Gwendolyn Post is so very manipulative, you know, the way she comes over and talks about how, oh, let them have his secret meetings, and Faith's like, oh, secret meetings. I guess I'm not involved in that. And then, of course, you know, the betrayal she feels when she finds out that Buffy has been keeping secrets from her, and the fight at the end. And, you know, Faith is just, I mean, there's so many hints dropped about her past, you know. My dead mother hits harder than that. My mum was so busy with the passing out parts of life. This is never confirmed. This is just my personal headcanon, but I'm fairly certain that the girl has been sexually assaulted. Some of the stuff that she says to Angel about safety words are for wusses, and that's what they all say. You know, I just want to stay the night. I won't try anything. It's like, yeah, the girl's got a lot of trauma. So she's obviously come to this town wanting to find family. Her watcher, who was killed by kissing toast, was obviously quite, you know, quite important to her, and died in quite a horrifying way. And so this is the first episode where she starts to feel like she's not part of the group, like she's on the outside, like they're not going to like let her belong. And I think that final scene between her and Buffy is really poignant, you know, with Buffy trying to reach out and Faith is not really letting her, but then Buffy doesn't really push as hard as maybe she could. And you can see her as she's standing on the stairs outside, you can kind of see her thinking to herself, do I go back? Do I push this harder? And Faith is obviously like, yeah, you're right. It's a really great episode, and it's got a lot of nuance to it as far as Buffy and Faith and that dynamic and everything. And I just think that final scene is really, really done very well, with the two showing the two Slayers and how they can't quite seem to connect with each other, even though they both kind of want to.
Where Faith's going to go later in the season, like when you see an episode like that and then see where she goes, it's stuff like that. It plants the seeds. Yeah. And yeah, no, it's a strong one. It definitely gets the right balance. I'll say also, I think for 90s network TV, the effects are pretty good in that
the Glove of Minigon's not bad, is it?
Yeah, because sometimes in Buffy there definitely are times where the effects look very much.
Oh yeah, just wait until we talk about Graduation Day.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. But yeah, the effects in that I think are pretty good. Ship Faith and Buffy quite a lot.
Okay, fair enough.
So actually, it's this funny sort of thing where sometimes you might get the impression that I'm more of a like a Buffy and Spike shipper. Now, I think that just comes down to I prefer Spike as a character than I do Angel, but actually, as a ship, I think I might actually go with Faith and Buffy, even though there's like reasons why that probably couldn't happen. But in some ways, they do have the whole slaying thing in common, and it's almost like if you could mix their two like sides, like the good from Buffy, the good from Faith, you might sort of have the perfect sort of union. But yeah, circumstances and the rest get in the way. But. And that is actually one of those episodes where they're testing the waters a bit with that relation, or they're playing to the fans, because that's the one where they've got matching hats, like in the Bronze.
Synchronized slaying.
And it's one of those. I don't think they were ever seriously considering that relationship.
No, and definitely not.
I think it's just playing a little bit to the fans who were like speculating but.
Well, I remember Eliza saying that she played Faith as if she was attracted to Buffy. And I totally see that. See, I completely 100% understand why people ship Buffy and Faith. And I don't really have anything against the ship. For me, I never shipped it for a few reasons. One, for similar reasons to the way I don't ship Buffy is, and we'll talk about this more in season 4, but I do think that Faith has victimized Buffy too much for it to ever be like a healthy relationship. Like, you just can't have an equal balance when you look at some of the shit that Faith has done to her. It's like, you probably shouldn't be. That's a lot of red flags there. But secondly, for me personally, while I could definitely see an attraction on Faith's side, I never saw anything on Buffy's side. And I really looked this time. I was watching season 3 and I was like, okay, let's see if I can see what everyone else is seeing. Couldn't see it. So, but like I said, absolutely 100% understand why it's such a fan favorite couple. And I'm not anti Buffy, the ship name is, Eliza has chemistry with anyone she practically stands next to. So, it's so the chemistry is good. And I think this season as well, for the most part, does a good job of showing the dynamic between the two Slayers and the light and the dark. So Revelation, definitely an underrated episode. But let's talk about gingerbread, because I've never come across anyone else who loves gingerbread the way I love gingerbread. What do you love about this episode? What makes you feel it's underrated?
Well, I do like the central gimmick of it, the central monster of it. Now, they sort of chicken out a little bit because it obviously turns out the kids aren't dead, and that may be just a network TV thing where they didn't want to go that dark. But
true.
But certainly earlier in the episode where you think that is what's happened, and Joyce's reaction and scenes like that are really good because it just shows that Joyce is still dealing with this new life, this new world that she has with Buffy. And it's one of the things that Buffy just has to accept. And people are going to die. She's going to lose people. She can't save everyone. And into like fairy tales, Hansel and Gretel. And I think it's a good way to mix in like the real world stuff and like a more sort of fairy tale logic. Where I don't think it's too far fetched, and also I do enjoy the social commentary of it to do with like cults and
and mass hysteria and mob mentality.
Mass hysteria, and there's a good cameo for the mayor in it. I think he does a great job in the episode, but it definitely gets that across. And like when they're confiscating the books and things like that. So it's just a little bit of a different area to what they've explored in the show up to that point. So I enjoy it. There's some fun stuff. I enjoy the stuff with Cordy and Giles. Whenever they have scenes, it just ends up being gold because I really love they're in his car. Couldn't you get a faster car? I really love like the thing with the frog thing. Where...
Drop a toadstone in. It doesn't look like a toad. No reason it should. It's from inside the toad. I hate you.
Yeah.
Of course, the classic line. How many times have you been knocked out anyway?
Yeah.
I swear one of these days you're going to wake up in a coma.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Wake up in the coma. Yeah. Yeah, they're so great. And I love also Oz and Xander teaming up, like going through the ceiling.
Falling through the roof. We're here to save you. So good.
And
it's not though. I think Gingerbread is great.
I think it's nowhere near like being a bad episode. You could definitely say maybe by the standards of this season it's a little bit lower, but
maybe. But
that's
even
just
then,
a nitpick. Like, it's not quite as good as some of the rest. I still really enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I think it's a great. I think the storyline's great. I really love the idea of fairy tales being real. And like, I love anytime because fairy tales are something that is so universal, like especially in the Western world, you go to any country and they're going to know Cinderella, Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood. So the fact that they work that sort of mythology into the show, I think is really fun. First of all, Joyce Summers is the cutest thing on the face of the planet. The fact, Joyce gets a lot of hate from the fan base, which I don't understand because I know she makes mistakes, but she really tries. And the fact that she goes out with Buffy and she's all like, oh, I thought it was time I saw, this part of your world. And look, I brought you a snack. And then when she's fighting the vampire and she's all like, good, honey, kill him. And then, she's trying to be supportive. And I think Christine Sutherland is really good in this episode. And of course, seeing Joyce's heartbreak and everything. I like that we get to see Amy again. We haven't seen Amy since season 2. So seeing Amy again was fun. Moo is one of the best things ever. I said to Stephen, I was like, it technically should be parents opposed to the occult, but then we'd have an even more unfortunate acronym. So, the library scene is great. It's like, Giles, we need those books. Believe me, I tried telling that to the nice man with the big gun.
Yeah.
Just, And also I love Giles yelling at the computer. Did I tell you could restart, you stupid fat? No, I said bad, and I'll say it again. And yeah, and seeing Willow's mum is great. You know, we finally get to see Willow's mum and see how neglectful she is. I just love the whole, Willow, you cut your hair. It's like, yeah, it was just a whim I had in August. And
yeah, because it is disappointing they don't bring her mum back for a few more episodes. It
is,
but
yeah.
They actually make the most of it. Like, you get a good sense of their dynamic and why they probably have a bit of a tense relationship. And one of the funniest scenes in the episode, I think, is actually when Willow's trying to show her what a rebel she is. Like, when she's like going off about how she dates a rock star. And
Willow. Yeah. And then she's all like, I worship Beelzebub. I do his bidding. Oh, one of my favorite lines. Do you see any goats around? No, because I sacrificed them.
Alison Hannigan really brings it.
Oh, she's brilliant in that scene.
and I also quite enjoy, like, Willow's mum calling Buffy Bunny.
Bunny, that's
after all these years, like, they've only been friends for about 3 years, and she still does know her name. That's the telltale sign there.
It's a fun guy, and I love the climax where Buffy, like, is bent over with her steak and the monster, and she's just like, "Did I get it? Did I get it?" So no, I think Gingerbread. Look, I think in the grand scheme of things, when, like you said, like, you look at all the other episodes in this season and they are all so strong, this one does kind of stick out as kind of just a monster of the week storyline thrown in amongst, like, you know, all the ongoing storylines. So I can kind of understand why maybe it might get overlooked, but I just think Gingerbread's a really fun episode. I think it's a fun concept. Oh, did you notice one of the little kids is played by the actor who plays Andrew from Desperate Housewives?
No.
Next time you watch, have a close look. Yeah, that's him. But yeah, I thought it was a really fun episode and a really fun concept. And you've got some fun pairings, like we said, Giles and Cordelia and Xander and Oz. And yeah, and I also love when they're tied up on mistakes and, like, Amy's just turned herself into a rat and Willow's all like, now you will feel my power. And Buffy's like, what are you going to do? Float a pencil at them? It's just like, it's got some really fun stuff in it, Gingerbread. I'm so glad that you enjoy that episode.
The puppet show of the season a little bit, where there's just something that speaks to me about it and I really enjoy it, and it sounds like it's similar with you.
I was just going to say, it doesn't help that it's cushioned between Amends and Helpless, which are two, like, really big banger episodes, you know, so I think it just gets a bit lost in, like, all of the intensity around it.
Someone who isn't maybe the biggest Spike fan, because oh, baby, does he make his one appearance this season count. Lover's Walk kicks fucking ass. What do you think of Lover's Walk? And you've got to be unbiased. Just judge it as an episode.
Look, it is a good episode. It brings everything to a head, obviously. Spike and Joyce having hot chocolate and marshmallows is probably one of the funniest scenes in the season. Look, if I try and put my Spike bias aside, because every time he comes on the screen, I just roll my eyes so far I can see my skull, it is definitely a great episode. And I think having Spike in for just the one episode where he comes in, kind of shakes everything up and leaves, is much better than having him for, like, a full season. I also love the reverse kind of entrance we have where it mimics season 2 with him knocking over the sign, but instead of, like, swaggering out, he just stumbles out completely drunk. He's such a loser in this episode. Oh my God. But he's entertaining, and James is giving it his all. One thing I will say I do like about this episode with Spike is it actually, because you forget this because he becomes so neutered later on in the seasons, but it shows that Spike is not just a real threat. He is, like, really scary sometimes. Like that scene where he's threatening Willow with a bottle to the face. Like, you remember that, like, okay, this dude is scary. He's an actual danger. Because you do tend to forget that in the later seasons because, you know, of everything they do with his character. So look, Lover's Walk is obviously not one of my favorite episodes of the season, and I do tend to skip it sometimes because I don't.
No, you're crazy.
I do not look. Spike takes up
The way he
so
drives
much
out
space.
of town is fantastic.
That is funny too. But for the most part, I can give or take Lover's Walk just because I'm not a massive Spike fan. So yeah, it's but it
when
brings
he's wailing away on the vampire, it's so good.
What when he's all like, "Baby want a bottle? Baby want a bottle? Why doesn't baby have a nap?"
And I tell you what's a really darkly funny moment.
Oh no!
It's when he's reminiscing about what him and Drew when they killed.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, we killed a homeless man on this bench once."
He's reminiscing.
And he's like having such a good time. Yeah, and then the camera just pans up to Buffy and Angel, and they literally have the exact same expression on their face. They're just kind of like. Mm-hmm. But once again, this is just a great example of like Spike has too much plot armor. He just has way too much plot armor. He should have died at the end of this episode. There was no reason to let him go.
Oh no!
Why are you letting Spike go? Stake him already.
Flat ending. That's not really the way you.
I know you
do
can't
drama.
really kill Spike in this episode. I just want him to die.
Yeah. Nice.
Look, Lover's Walk is a good episode. I don't think there's really a bad episode this season. I think, well, maybe Beauty and the Beasts, but
I'm not so hot on that one.
Yeah, no one likes Beauty and the Beast.
There's another episode I'm going to mention, but it's when we get later into the season.
But look, Lover's Walk is definitely a good episode. Like, I'm not denying that. It's a really good episode. It's got some great characterization. We, of course, get the revelation of, like Xander and Willow, obviously, that all comes out into the air, and that had to, that eventually had to culminate. And, look...
And I think also, I may be Love's bitch, but at least I'm man enough to... That's one of his greatest ever lines.
That is one of his better lines, and
I do like the way that whole thing correlates with the Buffy Angel stuff, and then you get obviously the Xander Willow stuff as well. So it's a nice little neat package of an episode. The way it puts it also. Together.
Yeah, it also has a little really important piece of characterization for Willow. This is the first time we see her try to attempt to do a spell on someone without their permission or consent, and obviously that will become. A bit of a... And I'm totally with Xander, by the way, when he's all like, oh, and should I remind you that this sort of stuff doesn't work out well for me? It's like, yeah, Xander and love spells or delusting spells or whatever. No good track record there. Lover's Walk is one of those episodes where, obviously it's a really good episode, really solid, just not one of my favorites because I don't love Spike. Justice gives it his all. His performance as Spike is fantastic. It really is. The way he plays drunk Spike is brilliant. I love that. I do love the scene where he wakes up with his hand on fire and he's just like, oh crap, and he just goes running. And like I said, him having hot chocolate with Joyce and talking about his and Drew's love being eternal, that is a bit... Oh, also, I love when Angel's trying to get in the house and Spike's just behind Joyce and he's like... he's making that face,
Yeah, that's really good.
And I mean, I've said this before.
And I love Joyce's confusion in that scene as
because she's got no idea what's going on.
Last time she checked Angel was a bad guy.
Exactly.
And
Spike was the good guy. Yeah. I mean, I've talked about this before, and obviously it'll come up as the seasons go on, but I have been in the Buffy fandom for 20 years, and in that time I have had to deal with so many extreme Spike and Spuffy fans that it has unfortunately ruined the character a little bit for me, because I associate his character so much with so much bad experience in the Buffy fandom, and just the over-adulation of his character and the over-adulation of his and Buffy's relationship unfortunately does taint for me a little bit of the early seasons, which is annoying, and I try not to let it, because I do quite enjoy seasons 2 and 3 Spike. But when you've been in this fandom as long as I have and as deep as I have, and it's just unfortunately the fandom experience does seep into your real life watching sometimes. So and it's going to be interesting when we get to the later seasons of the show. Yeah,
because that's where we all probably really disagree, because I do have some defenses of Spike in the later season, so I think that's where
when we get there.
but I'll just say on something you just mentioned, and this is from both sides, I think from certain Bengal fans as well. angle.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are
Immature, grow the fuck up.
everywhere.
It's
Oh,
fiction.
yeah. Unfortunately, when it comes to fandom, everywhere you go, and like being older now, I'm like basically at the point where like I just ignore a lot of like other people. But when you're younger in fandoms, you know, and you're really getting involved, and you know, back in the day, the Bangelverse Buffy fans, like Flame Wars, were epic, and the amount of fans I had to deal with. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there
it
aren't
spoils
crazy
it
Bangel
because,
fans.
you know,
Yeah,
it's
but I
just
think
stuff.
because the Spike fans and the Spuffy fans take up such a big part of the fandom, like the majority of, you know, Buffy fans are Spike fans, so it's very hard to escape his character. So as we were talking like off camera, we were talking about overhype. I suffer from that with Spike. I suffer from a lot of hype backlash with Spike because I honestly sometimes just do not think that he is as great a character as everyone makes him out to be.
The Wish is right up there as well as
Yeah.
I love this episode.
The Wish is fantastic.
Great Cordelia-centric episode. Great debut for Honor. She makes a good impression as well in her first episode. And yeah, I think a lot of times this sort of episode where it just flips everything upside down and you see the reverse of things and how things could pan out or how they're panning out in a different version of Sunnydale. Those are just my jam for like one-off episodes, and once again it does that balance thing where it definitely advances characters as well. But I just love how post-apocalyptic like the alternative Sunnydale looks, and just how bare and sparse it is, and just little fun details of Buffy getting to play almost like the Faith version of Buffy in this reality, because things have worked out in a very different way. I do have one point about this sort of episode, and it's just a recurring sort of comment, which actually Xander has made also, but also Cordelia makes a couple of times. And it's one that, I wouldn't say it annoys me, but it's definitely one that I disagree with, where they come out with the old chestnut of, well, we wouldn't need saving if Buffy weren't around, or our lives would be better. Because it's like, well, you still go to school on a Hellmouth.
On a Hellmouth, yeah.
The demons would still be there, and there's still a chance you would run into them. And
yeah, as we see in this episode.
Yeah, like I can understand the argument that by being friends with Buffy, maybe you're more likely to run into it as a direct result, but at the end of the day, she obviously saves them so many times as well. And they go to school on the Hellmouth, so there's a decent chance they're going to run into trouble at some point. So that's just one of those arguments I never agreed with when they said it.
I love little details in this episode, just showing the post-apocalyptic world. It's just so good.
Cordelia episode that really shows her many sort of layers, how she has grown. Because one little scene I like is the scene where, you know, like Harmony's like showing her up and they're making fun of her. And the bit with Jonathan, I actually like how Cordelia like actually feels sorry for him a little bit, how it's not just her being embarrassed. You can tell like the way she's looking, and she's like, yeah, Jonathan doesn't, you know, deserve this to be part of the butt of the joke.
You can see that the reaction on her face is not just that they're teasing her, it's almost like showing her what she used to be like this used to be her, and picking on the weaker, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
It shows sort of growth in her as well.
Yeah. I love her, and I love in the alternate world when she comes across Xander and Willow before she realizes they're vampires, and she's just like, no way. I wish us into Bizarro Land and you guys are still together.
That's funny. Yeah.
But like there's little things like I'm pretty sure you can see on like the lockers, there are like little crucifixes hanging on the lockers. I like that when you see the classroom, it's like half empty, you know, showing that they've lost lots of students.
They really go
Yeah, or like, the winter brunch, because they can't have a dance because the dance is at night. So it's now like a brunch instead of a formal, just little things like that. I think like they've really, really helped to build the authenticity of the world. And Willow and Xander as vampires. And again, I say Xander Harris is a great example of how confidence can affect your level of being attractive, because vampire Xander is fine. So,
he has a lot of fun, and they're really good together, like torturing Angel and different things.
Poor puppy.
and definitely a great comeback for the Master.
I was about to say that. Seeing the Master again is fantastic. I also love when they come to see him and he's all like, I'm trying to eat, this one keeps looking at me. I'm trying to eat. He looks at me.
He has some choice lines when he's doing his speech. I can't remember. He has some line about what do they say, and they don't say anything because we eat them, or something like that.
Yes, something
I can't
like
remember
that,
the exact line. Yeah, no, that's a really good line. He just has the right sort of delivery. Dark it goes a little bit because I like how they're playing on the whole mass production, capitalism, the way
I
they're
think it's
using
a
that.
really cool angle to take, because it is something that if you think about in a world dominated by vampires, humans, we'd become like cattle. We'd become like mass produced. Like there's a vampire movie that actually touches on this, Daybreakers, where the vampires are harvesting humans. So I always really like this idea because I'm like, look, I love my dark erotic vampires down dark alleyways draining the blood out of victims, but it's not always practical. I think this really shows that vampires have to adjust. They need to figure out ways to mass produce their food. So I actually think this was a really cool angle to take.
Cameo from the Master, definitely. The whole fight sequence at the end and the way that contrasts. And Giles' voiceover and his speech is so good. I mean, that just sums up, in a way, the positive slant of the whole show about the heroes, where it's almost that they know realistically then the fight goes on, and in some ways they never ultimately win because they just keep coming. But it's just what he says about that belief, then the other world has to be better.
Yes,
it's almost
I like that
it
one.
Can't get any worse type thing.
And that final slow motion fight is fantastic.
It's so well filmed and directed.
And the music, that haunting score, and I just love the chilling factor of seeing all of these people that we know in the real world love each other, kill each other. We see Buffy kill Xander and we see Oz kill Willow, and then that moment right at the end when the Master snaps Buffy's neck just as Giles smashes the pendant. It's one of my favorite sequences, possibly in the show. And of course, one of my favorite biting scenes in the show is that horrifying scene when Xander and Willow drink Cordy, because Giles's helplessness in that scene. And again, just like I said, that chilling factor of seeing people that we know have such deep connections just be completely different and be able to do this in a different life. It's really quite interesting and almost chilling at times to think that it's like you were saying earlier, just a few different choices. And voila, this is what we have. So,
it can change the
whole
sort of universe. And another thing, actually, I don't know if you know this, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the girl who's in the group, with Oz and Larry,
Nancy,
I'm pretty sure she's in a later episode in the season, Doppelganger.
That's cool. That's very cool. We'll have to look out.
Because she's actually killed in that episode, I think, pretty much. So,
okay.
I don't know if you actually see her be killed. It might be at the point then Vamp Willow gets interrupted, but I think she's one of the potential victims because I think
that's cool. I'll have to keep an eye out for that next time.
I'm pretty sure that's the same character.
Doppelgangland is one of my favorite episodes of this season. such a great character study for Willow. Just such a great episode and so much fun to watch. And yeah, just again, seeing the after effects of like, you know, what we've done and the choices. And I really love in the episode, you know, Willow trying to like shake off her Mika persona. And I love when she has a little rebellion and she's like, I'm eating this banana. Lunchtime be damned.
Be damned, yeah.
Yeah, you know. And then, of course, the juxtaposition of Vamp Willow with normal Willow. And then, of course, when you watch the later seasons, you realize that Vamp Willow is not so much the opposite of Willow as she is the darker side of Willow that we will see emerge. Yeah. Like, I love when she's in the cage and Buffy's all like, just remember a vampire's personality has nothing to do with the person it was before. And Angel's like, well, actually, that's a good point. You know? So I just think it's just, and seeing the two Willows together, the effects aren't great, but it's still a fun.
But for the time, it's probably not
for the time,
bad.
yeah. Unfortunately, also because I was watching this on streaming, I was watching it in HD, and the HD remaster really doesn't help really the special effects. Yeah, but I think Doppelgangland, I included it in my top 10 character-centered episodes on Buffy because I do think it's a really great study for Willow and just her character and how far she's come and where she's at. And I love that opening scene with Snyder and her and Percy, and he's all like, you've got the brains, he's got the fast break, it's a perfect match. And she's like, match? You want us to breed?
Yeah, and that's another good character touch, her being like interested in being a teacher almost, and her actually making that positive impact on someone like Percy. And he goofs it up a bit when he appears in season 4, but at least for a while it seemed like they were kind of, there's a respect there that they can be friends.
Well, you know, Vampire Willow kicked his ass, so got him into gear.
Yeah, so like him giving her the apple later is so
that is so cute. I love the apple for teacher. That's just adorable.
Because he's actually done his part and done the work. It's like, okay, we can go to the bronze now. I don't have to worry about sorting that out.
Yeah. Double gag. And I also love that Vampire Willow keeps trying to feel everyone up. You know, he's just like, hands in new places. And even Willow later on, hands. It's like, what are you doing, girl? Damn it. And of course I love the end bit where she goes back to her world and she's all happy, and then Oz like stakes her. You just see that, and then as she's dusting. So yeah, Doppelgangland and The Wish, 2 fantastic episodes that came out of this season, and just a lot of fun. I also love Willow pretending to be Vampire Willow, which is just the funniest thing ever. When she tries to put her hand through someone's hair and she gets stuck and she's like, oh crap. And just really good.
I just love the whole plan where she keeps telling the vamp, he's been a while, why don't you go and check on him? And that's the way. And it's like, well, if I was really like the other Willow, could I do this? And she just screams, and that's the scene. Yeah, pretty much they do that. Yeah, there's a lot of fun with that, and Hannigan getting to play different stuff and just having a lot of fun. But she is my favourite character overall, Willow of the verse. So I mean, how could I not love Doppelgangland? It's so much fun. The flying pencil stuff is really fun as well. But okay, so I don't know. We've jumped around a bit. I know you mentioned Helpless as being one you like. Do you want to say a little bit on that? Why you like
man, Helpless.
It's really dark
my
episode.
Freaking heart this time around. I wanted to punch Giles in the face in this episode. Oh my god, the betrayal of trust in this episode, the way that he takes away Buffy's bodily autonomy, the fact that he poisons her. And I think this episode really emphasizes that the Watchers Council are freaking useless and just stupid.
And if you had any idea of them being on the good side, then I think that totally disappears at this point. They are such dinosaurs, such monsters, and they don't have the first idea really, and this episode proves that. The
cruciamentum, I kept trying to figure out what is the point, and then I realized the point is the council saying to the Slayer, you belong to us. It's basically the council saying we have control over you. We can take your power at any time. We can put you in this situation. They say it's to test her, but it's not. It's absolutely to show that they are in control of her, which is why it's so satisfying at the end that Giles, and Buffy, they separate. Exactly. Yeah. And I know that Giles in this episode would be working between like his love for Buffy and his ingrained duty to the council, because the council seems almost cult-like at times, the way they brainwash them. I mean, we see this with Wesley when we got to talk about Wes, but we see this with Wesley when he turns up, and so on the one hand, I'm like, okay, I get it, but on the other hand, no, like that scene where he hypnotizes her and injects her. I wanted to reach into the screen and like grab that needle and jam it in his eye. I know he makes up for it by the end of the episode, but I honestly would not have blamed Buffy if she'd taken a bit longer to forgive him, because what he did to her was truly like spectacularly disgusting. It's terrible. It's terrible to see her so helpless. It's terrible to see her so lost. And I really like that she has that scene with Angel where she's talking about how she's scared that she's not anyone without being the Slayer, because I think, again, that ties into this whole thing of like, everyone's moving forward. Does she get to move forward too? Who is she without the Slayer? Can she be a normal girl? All of that coming up. I think that's really interesting to see with Buffy, because, she kicks against her destiny so much, but it really has become a part of her identity, and we really see it. I also think Cordy has some fantastic moments in this episode. She's Buffy, and Cordelia's like, what the hell is wrong with you? And she starts like hitting him, and like, essentially she rescues Buffy. And then later on when she comes into the library, when Buffy's, all distraught. So I think Helpless, there's not that much to say about the episode other than I think it's just a great study for Buffy and a really powerful episode to show how much the council sucks and to set up Buffy turning her back on the council at the end of season 3. This is the first step. Kralik is a freaking terrifying vampire. Yeah, he's fantastic. And that actor, he comes back later. He always plays those types of characters.
He really does.
Got that look. But he's great. And I think Buffy's final fight with him is fantastic, because it shows that it's not her strength that makes her the Slayer, it's her, the fact that she can still beat him. There's without
different ways to beat opponents. She thinks outside the box.
I just love that shot where he's choking and she just holds up the holy water bottle, and it's like, you're awesome.
Very good stuff.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I really love Helpless. What do you enjoy the episode, or is it one of the ones that maybe not?
No, I do like it. It's a little bit underrated, I think. It doesn't get talked about as much as some of the others. Yeah, it's a difficult one because at times it is hard to watch, and so it's probably not one I'm going to rewatch too often compared with others. But it is a very strong episode, and I think it deserves more love than it gets. Has a little bit of a Silence of the Lambs feel as well, when they're sort of down in that house and that basement.
Yeah, definitely.
And the sort of villain he is, I think, has a little bit of that feel. But yeah, some great guest stars, because it's the first time we see Quentin Travis. And that actor is so good. Yeah, I know he's a total arsehole, but that
but he plays it well.
That actor is so good.
Yeah, he is.
And it's always good when they start exploring the Watchers Council a bit more and opening up that side. And we actually see really that they're not the good guys at the end of the day, that they're very, very out of date, gross middle class white men who are like
patriarchal.
Too much like politicians, and just they just don't move with the times. They have to do everything by the letter, how they've always done it, and it's actually proven, apart from the fact that it's just an arsehole thing to do anyway, it's actually proven in the episode that it's too much of a gamble to do that sort of thing because of what happens it's actually too risky. So there's a logical reason not to do it as well. So it's a good episode.
Yeah. It is. No, I remember reading a fan theory that was actually quite dark, but I was like, oh, no, I actually agree. I can see where they're coming from. Where, again, someone was like, what is the point of the cruciamentum? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And someone was like, well, the Slayer's getting older. It could be a way of, like, it's partially like we control you, but it's like, well, if she dies, then we have a new, more pliable Slayer. So it's like it either will test her and let her know that she's still under the Council's control, or she'll die and they have a new Slayer. So the theory is that it's actually there to almost kill the Slayer before she gets too old and, you know, they can't control her anymore, which is quite horrifying. But given what we know about the Council, I woun't put it past them.
It's a weaker one and we can discuss it a little bit, see what you think about it. And that's Enemies. I think Enemies is a little bit of a mess. I certainly enjoy bits of it, but the whole plan with Buffy and Angel, I don't think it adds up. I think it's a little bit on the confusing side.
Yeah.
So just to set the episode up, it's the episode where Buffy and Angel trick Faith into believing that Angel has turned bad. She's turned into Angelus, which is obviously what the Faith and the Mayor are planning on, because they want Angelus on their side. And it's a whole ruse to get information out of Faith about the forthcoming ascension and that stuff. So, yeah, I think, as I said, it's a bit messy. I don't think it all quite adds up. There's just too many question marks, too many like inconsistencies, because I have to question. I'm not quite sure why they keep the other Scoobies in the dark in the first place.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, that's odd. I don't quite buy that, and I don't really think it affects the plan one way or the other, because I think they can obviously trust them to keep the secret, and it's part of the plan. And you can definitely say it's to their benefit if they know what's happening rather than not knowing. But I also don't quite get the sequence of events. I don't know at what point Angel lets Buffy in on the plan, or when they cooked up the plan, because you sort of see Buffy watching Angel and Faith in the previous scene. And I don't know if she knows about the plan at that point, in which case I don't know why we're seeing that reaction from Buffy. Yeah, I'm not quite sure at what point they cook up the plan. Like, that's a bit confusing, and there's just too many question marks where it's like, yeah, something could have gone wrong.
Really explain a lot in this episode. It's like they wanted to get to a point where they finally reveal to the Scoobies that Faith is evil, and they you know, obviously we have to reveal that. But see, for my thing, it was like, okay, so at what point in the episode did they realize Faith was evil? At what point did they realize she was trying to take Angel's soul? How did they know that the Mayor would go to this guy that Giles just happens to know, who also happens to be able to come and do this weird pyrotechnics, you know, display? What if, and there were so many things that were risky with this plan, you know, like what if Faith got carried away and tried to kill Buffy while Angel was standing right there? What if the Mayor staked Angel? What if they did this? Like the plan seems really flimsy. It seems like it only kind of went off by sheer dumb luck, and they don't explain when, like you were saying, they don't show us when it was put into place, how it was put into place, how they figured this out, how they figured that out, how they figured out this was the Mayor's plan. Instead, we just have to kind of accept that somehow they knew everything. I will say, though, this episode does have one moment that I absolutely love, which is one of Angel's best moments, and that's the when Faith is all like, what can I say? World's best actor, and then you just second best. And you just that moment of like realization on Faith, like, oh crap. But like, that's pretty much it. And I'm gonna, after we talk about this might be a good way to lead into some of the issues I have surrounding Faith going dark, because I don't think the writing for this was as good as I remember it being. But Faith has escalated really quickly. Like, it was literally only like a few episodes ago that she accidentally killed a guy, and now she's ready to like literally torture Buffy. It's like this went from like 0 to whoosh really quickly. Like, where did that come from?
Okay.
And I also don't 100% buy the whole, like, when Faith is all like, oh, I come to Sunnydale and who does everyone ask me to be? Buffy. Everyone's always asking me to be like you. I was like, none of that happened. And there wasn't really any jealousy or anything. I mean, aside from Faith, Hope, and Trick, I never really saw any of this between Faith and Buffy. It's like all of a sudden they decided that Faith is not only evil, she hates Buffy because of, yeah, I just don't feel like they built that well enough. Not for me this time around.
Okay, like I guess I excuse that because you could just say that's just Faith in the moment reaching, and that maybe it could just be from her point of view. It's just that idea of I was never accepted by the Scoobies, and because Buffy is sort of like in a way the more clean cut version, that could just be an interpretation from Faith. Then everybody wanted her to be like Buffy.
True.
But yeah, some of your other complaints I can see, and I do want to say I actually enjoy the end scene and the way it plays out. It's just the whole thing leading up doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. Like the climax of the episode is not too bad, you know, because we get
the
some
drama
information.
of it and the way
the drama is
out.
Fun, yeah. And of course, the first time that you watch this as an audience member and you don't know that Angel hasn't gone bad, it can be very, very tense because you really do that, like, Buffy's in danger again. I think that the climax of the episode and that scene between the three of them, Buffy, Angel, and Faith, I think that plays out very well. But yeah, it's such a messy way to get there, you know, just full of plot holes and kind of just stumbling around. It's almost like they wrote the climax first and then wrote the rest of the episode to kind of get to the climax without really thinking it out.
So here's a hypothetical question, hinting, and then it was a twist. Like, but if it had just played out that way, then Angel had gone bad. Would you have been up for that? Do you think that could have appealed? Like
Angel turning bad again?
Well, I mean, obviously they would have to have found a way to turn him good again, I guess, because he's off to do his own show. But
yeah, no, I don't think I would.
I guess that's the problem with. I just thought it could have been interesting if they'd ended the season maybe with him on Faith and the Mayor's side. It could have just been quite interesting to see.
It could have been, but I think that only would have worked if Angel was still going to be around for season 4, because then you'd have to like work on the aftermath of that. And this is like 6 episodes out from the final. It's just not really a great time to turn Angel evil again.
Because I think it's another pet peeve is maybe, and this is something both shows are guilty of, but then maybe they go a little bit to the well too often of, well, we're going to have an episode where it appears as though he might be Angelus again. To me, that's a gimmick that you pull out when it really matters and do something with it. But I kind of hate episodes where they tease that and then it doesn't turn out, then it's the case. Kind
of like Eternity on Angel.
Yeah, which is actually an episode I quite enjoy, but it's probably a pet peeve, with episodes like that.
I hear you.
A little bit. It feels a little bit of cheap to like tease you with it and then you don't sort of follow through.
I guess at least at this point, like if you're doing a first watch, this is the first time they really do that, you know. So I guess if you're watching Buffy the first time around, you know, you haven't seen this gimmick before. But but like I said, it does lead to that nice reveal. Also, I absolutely love the final scene between Faith and the Mayor where he's all like, I've got 2 words that are going to make everything better. Miniature golf. I just love that.
That's so,
and just the smile that Faith lets out. Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. You know, it's just really showing.
Because it's like, I'm, you know, I may be a cynical bitch, but it's just hard not to smile at this guy.
Exactly. It's beautiful. It's just so cute.
It's like all the things I thought he was going to say. I never expected that.
I know, right? It's just the way that Harry Groner delivers the line as well. He's so gleeful. He's like, miniature golf. Faith's just like, what? So good. I love their relationship. But no, talking of Faith, I just wanted to, because we've done, like, I mean, look, season 3, so much praise. And just before we get to the finale, because we obviously are going to have to talk about, you know, the prom and graduation day and everything. But enemies makes me think of, okay, so Faith as a character, Faith is obviously, she's one of the better characters, one of the best characters in the Buffyverse. You know, her journey and her redemption arc and everything that we get is fantastic. But I found myself this time around not liking the murder of Alan Finch because I don't think it played out. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get this out clearly. Alan's death, okay, the scenario in which it happened, Buffy and Faith are patrolling together. One of them is throwing a vampire against the wall, the other one stakes it. Happens with Finch. It's a complete and utter accident, you know? Literally, he just came out of nowhere. They both thought he was a vampire. And I feel that, but then afterwards, they talk about Faith murdering him like it was cold-blooded murder. Like Angel's talking to her like, oh, you have a taste for it now. It's like, dude, it was an accident. It's not like she went out and beheaded someone, but the way they talk about it and the way they go through it, they keep talking about like Faith murdered a man. It's like, you know what? If this went to court, I'm pretty sure she'd just get done on manslaughter. And the other thing that I don't like is it's like, Buffy was right there with her. This was actually something they did together, and yet they all like make it out that it was like just Faith on her own. And I feel like it would have worked better if Faith had killed the mayor in like a fit of anger, you know, or a fit of rage. If like the darkness that we'd seen hinted at inside of her had actually overflowed, like maybe Alan came to them to tell them something or something like that, and they get into a fight and Faith gets carried away and she kills him, because then she'd actually have a taste for it because she would have deliberately killed someone. So this just, the whole scenario it wasn't working for me this time around. I think everything they did afterwards worked fine, really but the actual incident, it didn't work for me.
Yeah, I can see both sides. I'm guessing they made it an accident partly because at that point it would be maybe hard to convince that Faith would do that just off her own back where she intends to do it. And maybe they just think it makes it a bit more complex, the fact it was an accident. Because from my point of view, the reason I would defend the Scoobies, and it's probably like Angel's choice of words were probably not the best, but the reason I would defend the Scoobies is because I think they're reacting mostly to Faith's reaction, like how calm and callous she is about the whole thing. I think that's what's putting their backs out more than... Because if she just fessed up to it and it's like, yeah, I screwed up and I'm going to do the right thing, I think that would be different. So I think the reaction is more based on her reaction rather than what she actually did. I mean, maybe it was a bad choice of words, but I think I could understand what they meant.
I kind of get it. And I mean, obviously we as an audience see that Faith feels bad because we see her return to the body and we see her, you know, and everything, but Buffy doesn't see that. But yeah, I think it was just more that like for the rest of the season, they really do treat the mayor's assistant's murder like it was a murder, like Faith just went out and killed him, when it was like, that's actually not what happened. Like it very easily could have been Buffy, and they have a scene in Doppelgangland where they try to convince us that it couldn't have been Buffy when Vampire Willow is she's choking Willow on the stage. Buffy jumps up and she goes to stab her and Willow yells, "Buffy, no." And basically I've read that was the exact same reaction time that Faith got. But I don't like that either, because I feel like that's showing like a privilege that Buffy has that Faith doesn't have. Like Buffy has the Watcher who's there to help her be more precise and help her work out, whereas Faith doesn't have that. I think I would have rather it had been shown that it really could have been either Buffy or Faith, and then they'd gone more with like, with Faith not feeling it, rather than saying, oh, you've got a taste for it now, Faith, you've been down the darkness. It's like, no, she accidentally killed. And as Giles points out to Buffy, this sort of stuff has happened before with Slayers, which makes absolute sense because...
That's true. So I probably think Angel was being rash, but I actually don't think the others were. I think their reactions were more justified. I mean, again, maybe they just chose bad words, but I don't think that's what they meant. I think they meant more it's to do with her react.
And I do gotta get that, but like also like Willow, like okay, again, I know Willow like has some reason, but she like turns on Faith like so fast, and like at the beginning of where is it? Is it Doppelgangland? Yeah, the beginning of Doppelgangland, when Buffy's talking about like the psych test that she has to take for the Slayer training, and Willow's all like, oh well, you'll definitely beat Faith, just don't mark the box that says I sometimes like to kill people. It's like, no, because at this point that's not who Faith is. She's accidentally killed someone. She's not out there murdering people all willy-nilly.
But again, these are young characters, and
I know.
There's jealousy there.
Up in Faith, Hope and Trick. Remember there's that bit where she's like wailing on a vampire and Buffy's like, Faith, stake him already, and Faith's
that's
him
a bit of a
now what I would have preferred if maybe it was like that sort of energy, like Faith wailing on someone and she accidentally kills them in a fit of rage or a fit of violence, because that to me, like that would be Faith, getting into it and like getting into the violence and getting carried away with the violence and then getting a taste for the kill, as opposed to her and Buffy just doing a nightly patrol and her accidentally killing someone in the line of duty, which is basically what happened. Angel is starting to get to her, and then in comes Wesley, and just
wonderful Wesley.
Wesley in season 3 of Buffy, because I watch Angel so much more than I watch Buffy. So, for me, Wes usually feels like an original character to Angel. I so often forget that he originated on Buffy, and just seeing him in season 3, it's like, wow, you come so far as a character. Because like season 3 Wes.
Well, okay, so let's talk a bit about Wesley, because I think he serves a purpose. Like I don't think.
He's great.
Okay, that's fair enough. I don't think you particularly need him. It's probably one small complaint of the season, and at times there's too many characters. Fighting for like screen time, but he serves a purpose. I think he is quite entertaining.
I do too.
And as a villain, he's quite effective, and it's quite nice. And later he comes around and he sort of shows that. But I know you've called him creepy before, and now, do you mean that in a creepy sense, or in a bad sense, or just then that's the character and that's effective?
I think in season 3, it's just a little bit of the character, like he is supposed to be just a little bit not creepy, slimy. A little bit slimy. Plus, his thing for Cordelia is a little bit creepy.
I thought you were going to go here. No.
Yeah.
I mean, disagree.
Really?
Yeah, but two things about this. First of all, you have to remember that he's not actually a member of staff. So it's not
That's true. True.
And second of all, it's the point Giles make. She's 19. And Wesley is probably at the most 23, 24.
Oh, you think he's supposed to be that young? Oh, see, I always assumed he was supposed to be in his late 20s. Because Alexis was 32 when he started the series. So I always assumed he...
he does look pretty...
It doesn't bug me that much, because it doesn't go anywhere, and it culminates in that really awkward kiss, which is one of the funniest on-screen kisses you'll ever see.
Yeah.
But I did, like, this time around, I didn't find it creepy to the point where it detracted from the character. It was more that anytime he was like near Cordelia, I was like, okay, plus I think it's also a little bit of like, because I'm used to Angel, and they do not have that energy at all on Angel, that seeing it on Buffy was just more like, kind of like, ew, no, it might just be just because it's Wesley and Cordelia and they don't have that dynamic. But I do find him very entertaining, and I think Alexis Denisof is having the time of his life playing that character. I think he's a great foil for Giles, and I think he works really well. Like, I love that scene where they're both cleaning their glasses, and Giles is just like, oh, crap. You know, he kind of just looks at Wesley and is like, oh no. And like you said, when they push him more into the villain role in season 3, like in the episode where they try to help Faith, or, you know, when Angel's been poisoned and the Watchers Council won't help, I think he works. I'm so used to Angel Wes, so seeing him on Buffy,
okay, that's fair. So it's not really a big deal, but
no.
I think you can see why he went on to become such a good character on Angel, because the actor is so diverse. He can do so many, because he does comedy really well, which gets overlooked, and that's what we see a bit more in Buffy. But yeah, we'll cover Angel one day, so we'll definitely talk more about him. But yeah, just as a short-term character at the end of season 3, I think he serves his purpose quite well, and I do enjoy a lot of the Cordy stuff. I love her taking his side over Giles, or just stuff like I want to research
I'm a Wesley's team.
Wesley. Yeah, Wesley's
There's
team.
only one team. Yes, and I'm on it. Plus, I love her flimsy excuse anywhere that I have an English paper and you're from England, so...
Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, and it's obviously one of these things that if Wesley wasn't in Buffy season 3, him and Allison probably wouldn't have got together, because that's when they actually met. So that makes it worthwhile alone. Yeah.
Threatening vampire Willow. He's like, back, creature of the night, leave this place. And I also love, and apparently this was Alexis's idea, in the final battle, how he gets knocked out like within 2 seconds of like running to the battle. He's like flat on his back. Apparently, Joss said to Alexis, he's like, what do you want to do in this fight? And Alexis was like, can I get knocked out within like the first 2 seconds? It's put that in.
It's just so perfect.
But
very good.
I think we've covered everything else. We should maybe talk about the brilliant finale to this season and how good that is. Oh, actually, before we talk about graduation day, do you like the prom? Because the prom is another episode that gets polarizing because it is quite Bangel heavy. So if you're not a Bangel fan, unfortunately,
I mean that might be. That might be the only drawback for me, but no, it's a good episode. I like the monster of the week, and I tell you what is a gem of a moment is it shows how smart Cordy is, because the moment where she picks out on the video, you know, they ditched Xander and went for the guy with the sparkle.
Exactly, and that's like the key to.
There's a method to her madness. She knows. There
always is. Cordy always knows what she's talking about. It might not seem like she does, but she does. The girl is so much more astute than anyone gives her credit for. And yes, the fact that she noticed that is brilliant.
Yeah, she's so good. I actually, and this comes back to something we talked about with last season, how it's definitely charisma elevating the character even more. It's not just the fact that it's a character that might be quite close to the real life. She, with her delivery, because like one line I like in the delivery is where she says, I'm a name tag girl now. Make sure not to leave that out. It just wouldn't have the same punch. I just love her delivery of that. Beams together with the prom and just the way everything plays out at the prom is so well done. All the little moments with characters like Xander and Anya going on their first date is so funny.
And Anya just talking about like all the vengeance that she's done, and poor Xander's just like, oh God.
Because I like that about their dynamic. Then in some ways she's almost like the more shallow character, like the shallow, what you would say is normally the male character, and he's the one who maybe wants a bit more romance from her. That's really funny. But...
Also, the way she asks him out is hilarious. Men are evil. Will you go with me? Okay, one of us is confused, and I'm honestly not sure which one it is. I love the prom. As a Bangel fan, it obviously gets me. I still don't love the breakup because I still think the reasons are stupid, but I think that David and Sarah play that scene really well. I actually really love Angel's dream because I think Angel's dream emphasizes that he's a danger to Buffy, you know? And plus it gives us Bangel fans a wedding, so, you know, we have stuff to make AUs out of this episode is and this is actually probably one of my favorite moments in the entire series, is the Class Protector Award. Because I just think,
so
I mean, it's so beautiful and so perfect. And Buffy has a theme this season of worrying that she's going to be forgotten. You know, she misses out on the class yearbook photos. She doesn't get homecoming queen. Her favorite teacher doesn't remember her. So she, like, you know, she has all this thing about, like, I'm invisible. I don't belong here. So I think that Class Protector Award, that acknowledgement of, like, what she's done for them and how she's kept them alive. And I love that they preface it by saying, you know, we're not good friends. We never really got to know you, but that doesn't mean that we don't see what you've done for us. And just that look of just wonder on her face when they give her that award, like, it actually makes me cry, because I just think she so deserves this. You know, she so deserves that award and that gratitude. And I think the speech itself is really funny, you know, when they talk about, you know, oh, this school is weird, and it's like zombies, hyena people,
That's so
Snyder.
good. That's so perfect.
And then when they're like, we're pleased to announce that Sunnydale High 99 has the lowest mortality rate of any graduating class, you know, just stuff like that. And it's just such a beautiful moment. So yeah, one of my favorite moments in the entire series, because Buffy just so deserves that. She's earned it so much.
It's a good symbol, and she is respected by her fellow students.
Yes.
And that maybe is something which hasn't always been obvious. So it's a wonderful moment. It's a wonderful feel-good moment. Everything they do at that prom, they couldn't have written it any better, really.
No.
Just all the individual characters. And yeah, it's hard not to be swept along. And even as someone who isn't so much a shipper of Angel and Buffy, I can't deny that's the perfect moment to end the episode. It's the perfect gesture for him to do that for her, to give her that one last sort of romantic night, if you will. Them just dancing. They understand the score. They understand it doesn't mean they're back together, but it's just...
It's beautiful.
I'm going to give you this one last romantic.
Yeah.
And you know, the choice of song at the end.
Wild Horses.
So beautiful. Really good cover as well by the Sundays.
Yes,
really
yes,
good.
it is.
Some great songs at the prom which just remind you of the 90s, like the Fatboy Slim one.
Yes, the Fatboy Slim. Praise you.
Yeah.
Yes. As soon as I heard that, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, back in the 90s. Voice stuff near the start when she gives Angel. Well, your face gives away what you feel. I was going to ask you, because I think I'm actually with her. Like, you can argue it's not really her place, but you can definitely understand why she does it.
Look, I don't like it because, okay, so on the one hand, I don't like it because it feeds into that whole you need to give Buffy a normal life angle, which I don't agree with. However, when it's coming from Joyce, that's the one person that I'm like, okay, yeah, this is your daughter. Of course you're going to be in denial about the fact that she's going to die young. Of course you're going to be hoping that she has a brighter future. And of course you're going to be worried if she's dating a vampire. So while I don't particularly like that angle comes out stronger than just Joyce, that scene in particular, I think shows that Joyce is a good mom and is thinking about her daughter and is thinking about what's best for her. Is it fair for her to put the burden entirely on Angel's shoulders? No. And I do think that by doing that, she is maybe infantilizing Buffy a little bit, like saying Buffy's not old enough to make these choices when the girl literally saves the world every other day. But again, Joyce is a parent. You can't help but see your child like that.
Yeah.
So that scene doesn't actually bother me that much, because for me, it just looked like a loving mother trying to protect her daughter. What I don't like is that overall theme of, like, giving Buffy normalcy, it actually becomes his reason for breaking up with her when it should be the Angelus period. But no, Joyce, like I've said before, I actually really love Joyce, and I actually think that she tries her very best. And I think this is one of those scenes that shows how much she actually loves her daughter and how much she has her best interest at heart.
Agree.
So
and I think a lot of times with these scenes, if it works dramatically, you're not really going to complain too much about the other complaints. And I think the whole way she presents it, the whole choices thing about she has a lot, there's a lot of tough choices to make. If she can't make them, I hope you'll make them for her. That line is really sort of strong.
Yeah. And I think she has a point, again, similar to what Willow says in Revelations, that when it comes to Angel, Buffy's just a young girl in love. She's not thinking straight, because as much as I hate to admit it, she does not think straight when it comes to Angel.
Yeah.
And, people can see that. So that is a fair point to make. I think the Angel could have waited until after the prom to break up with her. That was a bit of a dick move, but unfortunately, I think that the whole scene in Masu is just kind of escalated, and he didn't mean to do it then, but because I'm kind of with Willow, and he's a super jerk for doing it right before prom.
Well, he was, but I think from his point of view, I think if they went to the prom, it's like, there's no going back in a way.
That's just my little inner 17-year-old going, you're being mean. Why are you breaking up with her before the prom?
The worst possible moment.
Timing, dude, timing.
It's a little bit like in last season, Cordy choosing Valentine's Day to dish.
To break up, yes, exactly.
The worst
it's like
day.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of a breather before we go into the big finale. But because it's the prom, it works, because that is the natural, occurrence of events towards the end of the year. You do have, at least in America, you do have your big senior prom. Yeah. So I think it works well and leads very well into graduation day, which, I have to say, Buffy is really good at finales. Like, I've always thought that Buffy finales are really good, but graduation day is, oh my God, it's a banger of a 2-parter episode. Just everything about graduation day, parts 1 and parts 2, I think are so good. It's such a great culmination of the high school years. As you said when you introduced the video, it's just so fitting. It's the end of high school, so of course we end on graduation day. That makes absolute sense. And I think that it's a great culmination. We get the climax to the Faith storyline. We finally get a great showdown between Faith and Buffy. Got another little nitpick about that I'll bring up in a sec. But but that's a great fight. That is a fantastically choreographed fight. There's lots of emotion in there. The build-up that's been happening for the second half of this season, is really palpable, and it all just kind of comes together. And then the second half, Angel drinking Buffy's blood is one of my favorite scenes just ever, because this is one of my vampire kinks. Like, if you have a human dating the vampire must drink from the human. This is just simple vampire fiction laws. So the fact and I love that Sarah talked about how that is one of the most erotic scenes she's ever filmed. She's like,
there is
having a full orgasm, and she's like, and the censors just missed it. They just let it go straight past. I guess if there's no nudity involved, they just don't look. But that is one of the most erotic scenes. I mean, she really literally orgasms and breaks that table. It's insane. And then I just love, because we're talking about the Class Protector Award leads into this, where Buffy leads the entire student body in this final fantastic battle. And, that Class Protector Award scene shows you why they're so willing to follow her into battle, So I think it's a really good precursor to show, them following her. And I also think it's a great statement about these kids finally saying, no, enough. We've had 4 years of dealing with this shit. You are not taking our graduation from us. Exactly. And that moment when she just yells, now, and they all rip off their cloaks to show that they've all got the weapons underneath. It's such a great moment. But where do you stand on
it? It's so good. Everything's pretty much spot on, and just everything comes together. The drama of the whole day, and just the way it works with the metaphor of the show. But you're right, that being the plan, that they had all the students work together, and it's so well choreographed. Not just in the actual scene, watching it, but also the characters, the way they pull it together, and everyone has a job, and I just love the mini sort of. I think Jonathan saves Cordelia at some point. He gets
when the thing blows up, she jumps into his arms.
That's really good. I like that as a nice little moment for Jonathan. Someone who you sort of think as being a bit of a scaredy cat mostly.
Yeah.
So that's a nice moment. I like Harmony gets to show a good side, her actually fighting for the good stuff as well. Good. Larry we see a little bit of. I like when he's involved.
R.I.P. Larry.
Yeah, he's another gem of a character who like started off in a very different place on the show and then gets that stuff. So yeah, it's a really good end battle scene. Everything with Faith and Buffy I love. Obviously the mayor gets to be absolutely terrifying. We just see
that
just
scene
the
where he
range
comes
of
into the
Harry.
library.
Yeah, that's
you remember?
enough.
Yeah, and they were all just kind of like, "Oh shit!" And like, he just walks in like he's casually just touring the school. And then I just love his whole "That's a feisty little girl you've raised. I'm going to eat her." And then the way Giles
That's a
just like,
chilling line. Yeah.
I know, and just the way he just drops. It's like you were talking about before, how he can just drop the jovial, joking family man facade, and you actually see like the evil that's underneath. But I also love after Giles stabs him, he's just like, "Whoa, this sorts of displays of violence in front of the kids." It's just so good. But that fight between Faith and Buffy, and then like we were talking about, that dream sequence that they share, everything about that dream is so beautiful and so well done. Just the symbolism of like Faith having everything packed up and, Buffy saying, "Where's all this going to go?" And she's like, "It's yours." Almost like she's handing the Slayer line back to Buffy,
Yeah.
And the cat, and the way the cat briefly turns into Faith on the bed when Buffy says, "Are they ever going to fix this?" And I just think it's just such a beautiful dream and great, like if that had been the end of Faith's character, that would have been a beautiful send-off.
Yeah, sure. So I do have a question because I could be remembering the dream wrong, but doesn't Faith in the dream mention something about little sis to Buffy?
Yes, Dawn. Oh, not little sister, but there is a Dawn reference. So the reference is, Buffy says, I need to get going. And Faith says, "Miles to go, little Miss Muffet counting down from 730. So little Miss Muffet is Dawn. And 730 is the exact amount of days between the season 3 finale and the season 5 finale when Buffy dies.
That's really clever.
Yeah, I thought that
they
was
obviously
really
knew
cool.
that far in advance that they were going to do that storyline. So that's really clever.
In season 4, and we'll touch on this when we go there later, but in season 4, Buffy has a dream in the dream in Restless, when Faith turns up. Yes, I think that's when she says little sister's coming. Oh, no, it might be Faith's dream in this year's Girl. But yes, you're right. In one of the other dreams that Buffy has, she says little sister coming. But yeah, in this one, it's Miss Muffet counting down from 730. And I remember, it was just one of those things that when you watched it, you're like, okay, she's just speaking in riddles. And then, you find out that was actually a connection. So I thought that was really cool. And I like the forehead kiss. I like when Buffy wakes up she does the... Oh, but you were talking about earlier, the mayor in the hospital when he tries to kill Buffy. That is a sinister, chilling moment,
he's terrifying. Yeah, that's just comes
really
out of nowhere.
But
I think it helps when you're invested in him and Faith, even though ultimately you're more on the other side because they are villains and stuff. But it does help then you kind of understand where he's coming from, where he just wants to protect Faith. Those are
love her. It's really beautiful
feelings. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always point this out to Stephen when we watch. I'm like, okay, when Faith goes missing, when he's at the apartment and he sees the fight, he's like, "Find her, put everything on hold." And someone's like, "But Mayor, the Ascension," he's like, "Find her." And I'm like, oh my God, he is literally he has been working towards the Ascension for 100 years. Everything he's been doing has been building to this, and he literally puts this on hold to find her. Now, if that doesn't tell you that he genuinely loves her, I don't know what does. So yeah, I've always loved Faith in the Mayor. And I also, the dress he puts her in is terrible. Like, Eliza Dushku should never wear that again. But I think that
it's
scene
nice
is really
to
beautiful.
see a different look to her.
Yeah, but it's really not her. It's like she steps
Okay.
out and it's like, oh no. And when I was
Okay.
younger, I dressed a lot like Faith, so I know how I would feel if someone tried to put me in a dress like that. Like, just, but I do like that scene again because that's where he's all like, no father could be prouder. It's your day.
Yeah, that's
You're going to
really
be there
great
too.
stuff.
And I also like that in his speech he mentions Faith. Like he's like, some people who should be here today are not. So I think this finale really
Yeah, that's really
emphasizes.
good.
Yeah, and I really do like that they do almost work as like a foil for Giles and Buffy. Like the
Yeah.
Faith and Mare, they're like the dark version of Giles and Buffy. They're the evil versions of them.
Ida goes out is so funny.
Oh,
Just everything he does at the end there makes me laugh. Like his delivery of, and it just works so well. It's the character. Like the character would so say these. It's like you
this is not
prove pretty
orderly.
much adequate. Sort of.
Yes, and I also love when he's all like, "I saw that. See me after graduation." It's like, what?
Spit that gum out, stuff like that.
Yes,
it's just these off the cuff little remarks. It's so funny.
And then when there's like this giant snake demon, all he can be like, "This is not orderly. This is not discipline. You're on my campus, buddy."
Yeah, because it's like he stays in character even in
Yeah, he
this most
does.
extreme moments where he should be running for his life. It's so there's so many good scenes with Snyder in all 3 seasons he's in, but like another scene is the in Choices, why couldn't you be dealing drugs like ever you were?
Like normal people. and he's holding the chair up at the same time, and he just walks out the door with the chair. Yeah, so good. Oh, also, we'll have to touch on this very, very briefly. But it's not the greatest episode. But Band Candy, Snyder in Band Candy is like one of the best things.
Summers, you drive like a spaz.
Or then when he comes up to Oz and he's just like, "You've got great hair." Oz is just like, Band Candy.
You're not a fan of Band Candy. Oh,
No,
that's interesting.
No, I do
you
like Band Candy. No, everyone likes Band Candy. But what I've realized about Band Candy is that the plot doesn't actually make that much sense.
No.
But I can overlook that. And also, I think outside of Joyce, Giles, and Snyder, like the other adults all just kind of act like they're drunk.
Yeah. I mean, that's a complaint.
Yeah. But no, I still genuinely enjoy it because Giles and Joyce, so good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. No, it's a very entertaining episode. I actually have one sort of nitpick, like to do with a scene. I don't like the stuff with Buffy as a bad driver. I think that's
it's a bit of a
cliche
slapstick gag, isn't it?
Sitcom sort of trope. And a lot of times it's used on women. Unfortunately, it's almost like that sort of gag about women being. Yeah, I don't like that stuff.
I hear you. Yeah, it's a bit of a lazy gag, and it's like they wanted a cheap laugh, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, we'll just make Buffy a really bad driver, and that'll make people laugh." Yeah, no, it doesn't work. However, Buffy being continually disgusted at Giles and Joyce making out is hilarious.
That's great
like,
stuff.
Don't do that. It's just so good. Plus, Giles as a teenager, like it's always fun to see Ripper back. He's just fun.
Yeah, he's so good.
Ooh, Copper's got a gun. Like I love how Tony's accent becomes a little bit more Cockney when he becomes Ripper.
It does.
It becomes a little less, upper class. Principal Snyder getting eaten by a really bad CGI snake. Fantastic.
Because it's symmetry as well, because that's how the last principal
exactly.
And Snyder claimed that would never happen to him.
It's the kind of woolly-headed liberal thinking that leads to getting eaten. It's like, oh, really, Snyder? Does it?
Yeah.
Yes. But I have to say, watching the HD remaster or the Mayor as a Snake does not work.
It's
so
really
you definitely
bad
want
effect.
VHS for that. Because the VHS helps to hide the badness.
It
looked like, when you see behind the scenes of like 3D animation and you see the animation before it's been like rendered, that's what he looked like. He looked like unfinished CGI. It was terrible.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's fair. And I also, just as a little nitpick, I actually don't like his final line before he's killed.
Well, gosh, it's a little bit goofy, isn't it?
I mean, it obviously goes with the character, but it is a little bit goofy. But
Them blowing up the high school, though, like, isn't that just everyone's dream to finish high school and just blow the place up? It's almost like a wish fulfillment thing, you know, like a final stance against Sunnydale High. We are taking you down. And I love,
it's so exciting.
A lot of people say, and I agree, that Buffy could have ended at should have ended at season 5, but I also think it could have ended here. I'm glad it didn't, but the season 3 finale, it wraps everything up, you know. They're all done with high school, all the relationships are kind of, you know, worked out. Everyone's kind of reached the end of their arc, and you have that beautiful final shot of the Sunnydale High yearbook just lying there with the, you know, looking to the future. And I just think that if that had been the end, then those 3 seasons, they would have made a really fun little, you know, 90s show, and that could have been a really good finale. Like I said, glad it wasn't, because I do enjoy seasons 4 and 5, but I think it could have worked.
Well, yeah, because I sort of see it as over the 7 seasons. I think there's sort of 3 chapters I see it as.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is the end of chapter 1.
Of the first chapter.
And then you sort of get the college chapter, and then I think you get a bit more of an adult chapter to conclude. Yeah. But I also love their little moment when they're on the bench and Oz is like, take a moment, we survived. And Buffy's like, it's a hell of a battle. It's like, no, high school. And then we've taken a moment and we're done. Great finale. It delivers on every front, and just personal taste. I think I like it a little bit more than Becoming.
I understand that, and you know what? Watching this time around, I might too, just because this one is so, like, Becoming, it feels like a culmination, but just of that season, you know, and just of that show, that particular arc. Whereas this feels like a culmination of 3 years worth that we've been watching, you know. So it just feels, that much bigger and that much more grand. So I definitely get that. I've always loved Graduation Day, and rewatching it was just a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun rewatching this season. I think it's just a really solid. I forgot how solid season 3 is. Like, they really had sorted themselves out by this season, you know. Like, when we talked about season 2, we talked about how there's that first group of episodes, like right at the beginning, that are a bit of a slump, you know, and then you kind of have to wait until the Angelus period happens, and then it's all like full steam ahead. Whereas season 3, like, just seems to consistently maintain. I mean, I did find I always find around Bad Girls and Consequences I drop off a bit, and I explained, like, my reasons why. But even then, those are still well-written episodes, you know. The episodes are still well-written, they're still well-acted, and like you said, even the lesser episodes of this season are still really great, you know. Like, it doesn't have duds like, you know, Some Assembly Required or Inca Mummy Girl, you know. We don't have, like, that level of badness in this season, I don't think.
They're just in the mediocre territory. They're just, they're a bit in the middle. They're not as good, but it's still a testament, as I said. It's like in other seasons, they might actually be good episodes. They might stand out as good episodes, but it's just because they're surrounded by such great episodes. So, the standard's very high, and we could have really talked about even longer because there's so many.
Probably.
But I think it's just one of those things. There are nitpicks to be had, but you're always going to get that with a 22 episode season. Not everything's going to work. That's just reality. So
true.
I think it is very consistent and definitely one of the best seasons of the show. It's right up there. And I can't really fault anyone if they say it is the best season of the show. I can't see that argument.
Yeah, I would understand that. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Because actually, just jump a bit random, but another really good Oz and Xander moment, which I have to mention, is I think it's in Earshot. I think it's when Xander's looking for advice on how to be cool, and it's like, you know, you're in a rock band, so that attracts. It's like cool. It's like, does it? And it's like, Is playing an instrument difficult? And I was just like,
Not the way I
play it.
That's in the Zeppo. That's when Xander's trying to come up with a cool thing.
Yeah.
Oz and Xander
That's
have
so
so many. They have another moment that I actually really love. I can't remember. Oh, it's in Helpless when they're researching Buffy's power and they get into a whole discussion about kryptonite. Because Xander's all like, maybe she got around some kryptonite. She's like, oh, I believe that you think that I'm referring to green kryptonite, but I'm actually referring to this kryptonite. And Oz was like, well, actually, it's this kryptonite that does this and this kryptonite that does. I'm just like, that is like, because that's totally the sort of conversations you just have with your friends.
Yeah, that's
and I
really
think it's
funny.
Yeah, and it's nice to see Xander have like another male friend, because he's always surrounded by girls, which is fine. But and he even makes a comment like in season 5 or something. He's all like, too many girls. I miss Oz. He wouldn't say anything.
That's good.
But he wouldn't say anything. Yeah. So Oz and Xander, like this season provides quite a few different dynamics that are just really fun to watch. You've got Oz and Xander, Buffy and Faith, Faith and the Mayor, Cordy gets some great moments with some of the Scoobies with Willow, Buffy and Giles. Like season 3 just has so many great dynamics and just a lot of fun with the characters. And I really like to see where all the characters go this season. I think they all get some really good like episodes and some good growth and arcs. And it's really interesting to see them all, talk about their futures and what they're going to end up doing. And it really sets up season 4 very nicely to see that disconnect at the beginning when they all start college. So just a great season overall.
Would you rate season 3?
You know what? I think I'd go with 9 out of 10. And I'm only losing 1 point because there are just a couple of like writing errors that I don't particularly like. Like I said, I don't love like the mayor's assistant's murder and the way the Bangel storyline does get dragged out a bit. But I think what you said at the beginning was right. I think this is one of the most consistent seasons. I really love the way they build up the mayor, how he starts with just little scenes here and there. We get little hints about what's going on until it all culminates towards, the ascension. I think the themes of this season are really great. I think some of the characterization is really fantastic and really does have some of the strongest episodes, not just off the high school years, but off the show.
The whole show.
So I'm going to go with 9 out of 10 for season 3 because I think it really is the best season we've watched so far.
Yeah, and it's difficult. I'm wrestling a bit. Like, I'm similar. I could go 9.5. I could even go up to the 10. Like, if I'm just being extra positive, because I think sometimes there's always nitpicks to be have, but so I might go 9.5. I'll compromise. I won't quite go to the full 10, but I think maybe bump it a little bit from the 9. So I'll go 9.5. So we're nice. It's pretty much perfect overall. So, but okay, very good. By the way, I don't think you mentioned, you said you had a little nitpick with Faith in the finale. What was it?
Yeah, no, not a nitpick. It's more that Buffy literally tries to murder Faith in the finale, and it's kind of never brought up again.
Okay.
And I don't mean that I want Buffy to go to jail or anything. It's more that like this wasn't a case of self-defense. This wasn't a case of accidental killing.
No,
like, she went there to murder her, and they even have a little thing of Xander saying, "I don't want to lose you," and like. Human murder in the Buffyverse is a very big deal. We see it in Angel when Fred wants to kill her professor. We see it in Buffy when Willow wants to kill Warren. It's always seen as like a really big thing to take a human life. And I know Faith didn't actually die, but Buffy, I mean, it's from pure dumb luck that she didn't die. So again, it's not a huge thing. It's more just like, it's really interesting that they actually had Buffy go to commit cold-blooded murder.
Yeah.
And then it never comes up again.
I suppose the argument would be then at that point Faith has made her choice, and they're probably assuming that in the heat of the battle they're probably going to have to kill her anyway, maybe.
Yeah, probably. It's not a huge thing. It doesn't bother me that much. It was just, I was just watching it and I was like, hang on a second. This girl is going to commit murder. How come this never comes up again?
Well, yeah, it's pretty dark when you think about it like that, considering who the character is. And it's always interesting to keep track of those moments with Buffy because there's obviously 2 other moments, like, because at the time she thought she killed Ted, and that turned out not to be the case. Yeah. And I think that's partly what she's referencing when she's talking to Faith, because at least for a while she thought she certainly felt like she had killed a human. And the other one, which sort of gets glossed over just because he's a one-shot villain, is in the pack. You know, when she backdrops the guy into
because he was technically human.
That.
Yeah. Oh dear. Okay.
But you know, sort of self-defense and in the moment. But that's one that doesn't get talked about.
But that was just my little nitpick. But like I said, it's not a huge thing. It was more just kind of like that's interesting. Okay. Not going to follow through on that, but that's cool.
So before we go, as has become tradition, if you want me to run down my list, the big Buffy list.
Yes, let's hear it.
Number 1 is Amends, which we didn't really talk about, but we have talked about that.
We have covered Amends before, yes.
We're both massive fans.
Fantastic episode.
Yeah, we both had it on our Christmas TV list.
Nice.
So good symmetry. Number 2, Graduation Day. Fantastic finale. Does everything you want. Number 3, a little bit of bias here. Lover's Walk is my number 3. I think that's a pretty much perfect episode. I love my old voice Spike. Number 4, still going strong, is Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered.
Nice.
We both love that one. Number 5, Becoming. Number 6, Innocence.
Nice.
Number 7 is Passion. Still really strong.
So good.
Yeah, really good episode. Number 8 from this season again is The Wish. That's a personal favourite. It's funny actually how there's a Cordy-centric Angel episode which feels similar to The Wish. Birthday, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, that feels a bit inspired. Number 9 is Surprise. Number 10, Doppelgangland. Great Willis-centric.
Nice. Yes.
So, number 11 we didn't really talk about, but Earshot. I think Earshot is fantastic.
Earshot is solid. Yes.
Yeah, that's one I did enjoy even more this time. Number 12, The Prom. Number 13, School Hard. Gotta love my bad boy Spike. What a wonderful debut that was. Number 14, I Only Have Eyes for You.
Oh, love that one.
I Only Have Eyes for Spike, pretty much.
Yes, we know.
Number 15, What's My Line? Parts 1 and 2. Number 16, another great season finale, Prophecy Girl. Number 17, which we'll talk more about next season, is The Harsh Light of Day.
Oh, I actually do like that one. Despite the spikiness of it, I do like that episode.
It's a very good episode, yeah. Number 18, Fear Itself, another really good Halloween episode. Again, more on that next season. Number 19, Lie to Me. So still going pretty strong. I think we both agree that deserves a bit more love than maybe
it does, definitely. Yeah.
Number 20, actually another quite underrated one, Choices. I really like Choices.
Choices is good, yeah.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy it. It's a good Willow episode. Like the way she stands up to Faith in that is really
I love her
good.
speech at the end to Buffy about how she's decided to stay in Sunnydale because she wants to fight the good fight. And I think for someone like Willow, who has been accepted to colleges overseas, that's such a strong statement.
Options,
for like who she is and who she wants to be at this point. So that is a very good episode and a very good moment for her.
Nice little trilogy at the end of the season because they all feel like they're on a theme, like Choices, The Prom, Graduation. So 21 is Band Candy, 22 is Helpless, 23 the Zeppo, another very enjoyable episode, good Sanders-centric episode.
Yes.
Some great lines in that. 24 is Anne. Yes, strong opening to the season. 25 is...
definitely. Yeah, this watch has definitely... Yeah, I would think it is much better than I used to think it was. Really enjoyed it this time around.
Yeah. 25 is Halloween.
26
is When She Was Bad. Another solid season opener. I actually think Anne's a better season opener. I've come to that. But When She Was Bad is good. 7 Revelations. 28 Homecoming. That's a really fun episode. Slayer Fest 98. All the rest of it. Yeah. Great Cordy and Buffy scenes as well. 29 The Freshman. Again, we'll get to that next season. 30 is Faith, Hope, and Trick. 31 is Gingerbread. 32 is Consequences. 33, Ted. 34, The Good Old Puppet Show. 35, Angel. 36 is The Pack. 37, Witch. 38, Bad Girls. That glorious Jabba the Hutt villain is
oh
a
my
choice.
god, I
He
know.
is so gross, isn't he?
He's so gross.
But so good. 39, Welcome to the Hellmouth. 40, Killed by Death. 41, Enemies. 42, Dead Man's Party. 43, The Harvest. 44, The Dark Age. 45 is Phases. 46, still pretty respectable, I, Robot You, Jane. 47 is Living Conditions. Again, more on that next season. Yeah. 48, Beauty and the Beasts, which I think is definitely the weakest episode of the season. I think we agree on that. Okay.
Yeah.
49 is Reptile Boy.
Yeah.
50, Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. 51 is Out of Mind, Out of Sight. 52, Where It Belongs, is Nightmares. No, sounds pretty good. It fits the slot. 53, Some Assembly Required. You know what? I might put that above Nightmares. I might have a thing.
Don't you dare.
I think it's a little bit more enjoyable.
No, you cannot seriously put this stupid Frankenstein story above Nightmares. Come on, Keith. Pull it together.
I'll consider it. I'll think about it. It's a tough decision.
We're done. Keith and I are breaking up. It's over.
54 is Bad Eggs. 55 is Inca Mummy Girl. 56 is Teacher's Pet. 57, still the worst episode of the show up to this point, is Go Fish.
Ah, nice. Yeah, yeah. Go Fish is terrible.
Now, I'm going to make a prediction, then Go Fish will still be there at the end, but there are still episodes that could challenge it. There are.
Yeah, I was going to say, there are some stinkers coming up. Season 4 has a few. Season 4 is so interesting because season 4 has some really fantastic freaking episodes, and then it's got some incredible stinkers like you wouldn't believe. It's insane.
Also do our best and worst episodes, so that's
nice
coming up. Okay, so that's the end of our review of Buffy season 3. I hope you guys had as much fun listening as we had rewatching, but also talking about.
That was a big one.
Yeah,
we really
so
got
much
into this
to talk
one
about in this. It seems like each season gives us more and more to
yes,
talk
and
about.
it probably will as we go on. We get yeah.
So that's a good sign. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Bring up extra points that we haven't raised, or some of your favourite or worst episodes, some of your favourite or worst characters. Also, just on a theme at the moment, because she has made a bit of a mini comeback, Sarah Michelle Gellar. I'm reviewing her current show, Wolfpack, on the channel, and that's weekly, so I'm doing that one episode per week. The first 2 episodes have been reviewed and are up on the channel. So if you want more Sarah Michelle Gellar, you can get a little bit more on my Wolfpack review. So check them out if you're interested in that stuff. But before we go, if you want to promote your channel, Rachel.
Guys, you can follow me, Rachel McDonald, video essays on TV shows and movies. Now, I have been inactive for a little while. There's been some personal stuff going on, but I am hoping to start filming again regularly within the next couple of months. So please come and follow me, and I promise I'll have some new material soon. Keith usually puts the link, just the link in the description. So follow that and come follow me there. And my Tumblr is also linked through my YouTube. So come follow me everywhere.
Yeah, and a fair bit of Buffy content on your channel as well.
Yes.
So that links quite nicely. But thanks for listening, guys, and look out soon for our review of season 4. That shouldn't be too far behind this, and also following this will be the best and worst episodes, MVPs of the season, all the rest of it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye. Oh, and by the way, I hope Evil takes MasterCard. That's